Roll call now. Mr. Castellani,
Here.
Ms. Fusaro,
here.
Mr. Schramm,
Here.
Ms. Cerniak,
Here.
and Ms. Williams here, all present. On behalf of the Board of Elections, I'd like to congratulate and welcome our new member, Alyssa Fusaro. Welcome. You know, we welcomed Daniel, I think at the last meeting.
Yes.
Okay, welcome, both of you. We'll move to adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt today's agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Castellani, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Schramm, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion passes unanimously. The agenda is adopted. We'll now move into public comment on agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters listed on the agenda. We ask that you limit your comments to 4 minutes and 1 comment time per person, please. And also if you speak at the podium, there should be a microphone there. I think there's a microphone at the podium. Peter, or is there a microphone at the podium if anyone? Okay, thank you. We ask you just to state your name and your municipality before you speak. So first public comment.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Marianne Velez. I'm from Duryea in Borough. On the matter of removing the ballot drop boxes, I hope the Board of Elections takes in all of the constituents' concerns, both sides, Republican and Democrat. They both deserve to be equally heard, and their voices do matter. If the board does so choose to remove the ballot drop boxes, and that is at your discretion, we are asking that you consider implementing additional policies that would increase early access to voting by increasing when the mail-in ballots are mailed out, which would provide additional time for individuals to be able to vote, to be able to expand the allotted time to count those votes because of the removal of those ballot drop boxes. And we are all aware of the concerns we have with our postal service. I believe this would ensure that every resident has an opportunity to vote and have their voices heard. I'm also requesting that you seriously consider increasing the funding that would allow the staff to be properly trained, that our polling places are adequately staffed, that our mail-in ballots go out on time, and that we have adequate staff to count said ballots. It's not a surprise, and it's not a secret that Luzerne County has many blemishes from past elections due to inaccuracies, due to mishaps, whether it would be technical or at human error. And I do believe that if we increase the funding that is allocated to ensure that our elections are safe, secure, and transparent, it would help build public trust. And it is so crucial that that becomes a necessity. We are living in unprecedented times when residents, both Republican and Democrat, lack trust, not only in their elected officials, but in the officials that are supposed to govern the elections. We must work together to ensure every election is adequately funded with properly trained staff to ensure Luzerne County does not make national news again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to And I know this isn't supposed to be public discussion, but I just want to respond to a couple things that you mentioned, Ms. Velez, is that the citizens of the county are not our constituents. We are appointed to this board. 4 members are appointed by the county council. And we volunteer for the position. We're not paid. And I'm, as the chair of the Luzerne, election bureau is nominated and voted on by the members of the board. So the residents of the county, we serve them. They're not our constituents. And we're here to serve all of them.
Yes.
Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever political affiliation they are, we are here to serve and represent all of them. And the second thing I want to mention is expanding the time to count. The mail-in ballots is not our role to change. It's the legislature's role.
Okay.
And also to increase the time to get the mail-in ballots out. They went out as early as they possibly could. There's a process to getting the mail-in ballots out, getting the ballot proofed, getting the ballot created. I'm going backwards in this process. And they went out as early as they possibly could for this special election. And that's always the goal. But there also is a time frame, an earliest time that mail-in ballots are allowed to go out. And that's also determined by the law, the legislature created of when mail-in ballots can go out. That's in, I believe that's in Act 77. Anyways, if anybody else wanted to.
May I pose a question?
Sure.
In the event, and I do know that this occurred in the last election, the mail-in ballots were not received on time. How can that be addressed to ensure that all residents would receive their mail-in ballots on time?
Sure. A lot of times, well, the last election mail-in ballots did get out at the deadline of the last date that by law they're supposed to go out to residents, and some of them, you're at the mercy of the mailing, the postal system, and when they will get to that person. And when we did our little follow-up poll, survey, we only did it with so many who didn't receive their ballots. There were many residents in this survey who said they never received them at all. Some received them so late that they knew there wouldn't be time to mail them back to get there by the 8 p.m. deadline. So the options were, and we were sharing through the news, to either use a ballot drop box, because that would then get them there before the deadline, because they were picked up every other day, and then they would be picked up on election day, or hand deliver them. Or if you could choose to take your mail-in ballot and spoil it at the poll and vote there. Or if you didn't receive it, you could go to the poll and vote provisionally and say you still haven't received it. These are all options, but a lot of voters did not realize they had those options. That was one thing I noted in the survey. Some people wrote, I didn't receive it, guess I couldn't have voted. And so there are a lot of people that just aren't aware they could have gone to the poll to vote provisionally, or that they had any other options, like to drop it, or that they should drop it off in the ballot drop box when it's received so late. The other thing is the law for the state of Pennsylvania. I'll give you an example. You have up until March 28th for this special election on April 5th to apply for a mail-in ballot, 7 days before an election. So if you apply on March 28th and you're in that special election, that has to be mailed to you, then you have to mail it back 7 days. That really is a challenge. Does that work? And the legislature has been asked by employees at election bureaus to change that, to move that back to 15 days before the election as the deadline to apply, to address that situation. So if you apply very late, you must realize, and a lot of people may not, that if you think you're going to mail it, get it, mail it, and get it back by the deadline, that may not happen. But a lot of people may not be aware of that. So that's just a little bit about that. It's probably a lot more than I should have said, because I just said this wasn't public discussion. And
No, that's okay. I appreciate all the information that you have relayed. I have one additional question, and I promise I will allow you to go back to your.
I won't reflect. Go ahead.
Has the board considered an option if somebody did request a mail-in ballot and they did not receive it, that they can go to the election board and say, I received a mail-in ballot? There would be a check-off sheet that then the ballot was just handed to them. So
I don't understand that.
I don't either.
I don't understand that. Say that again.
So we're asking the residents who did not receive a mail-in ballot to go to the election polls, to the polling places, and simply state they didn't have their election ballot. If they did not receive the mail-in ballot, couldn't they just go to the election board and state, I never received my ballot? Could you give me my ballot?
No,
No, that can't
we
be
can't do
done.
that. No, we don't have that role. No. Yeah.
The Bureau can't do that really, once that ballot's in the mail. The only option really is to go to your polling place on election day and do a provisional ballot.
Correction, that actually can be done with the absentee ballots. Now, if you ordered an absentee ballot, you could actually go and get your absentee ballot back. If you mailed it, you can actually get that back and then go and they have to keep those at the polling place.
But
Before you
we,
get
the
that.
board, we
But
don't
we don't
do
do
that.
that.
No.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Will you clarify that? You're saying, some say that again, if you don't get.
I'm gonna move on to the next
Okay,
public
okay.
comment,
May I
please.
speak?
Yes, you may.
Hi, thank you. Mary Ann Nicolino. And I'm in Kingston. First, I want to agree with everything Mary Ann said. I don't want to repeat everything she said.
I'm just gonna set my timer. Keep going.
Yeah, right, and I'm the election judge in Larksville, Ward 3.
Thank you.
And as you know, we're busy before the doors open, and we're very careful about closing them on time and not causing any problems. I'm privy to all these problems. As the judge, I have to do all that paperwork, put out all the fires and everything. And I believe from my point of view that the mail-ins and the drop-off boxes are very important. It takes away some of our work. So, you understand that. And I have had people ask why there isn't a drop box closer to my ward. And that's a big deal, and most of the people that do want to do the drop offs are elderly people that they have a ride to go do it and situations like that. Mail-in's a whole nother, we could list this long, how many people need that, including myself as a judge, because I can't vote because I live in Kingston and I'm the judge in Larksville, so I cannot get away, and it's busy up there. So, I don't have the luxury of saying, oh, I'm going to be, gone for an hour. But that was I just wanted to give you, my side on it, that it definitely made a difference during COVID when people were doing the mail-ins and the drop-offs. From our point of view, it was much simpler. It took a lot off. It wasn't as chaotic. We didn't appear as chaotic to the public. We're a very good ward, by the way. We do a really good job. We always have the less mistakes. But anyway, but that's, we've been doing it together for a couple of years. But those things really make a difference to us. So just from a different point of view, rather than in the public, from a board worker, from a poll worker. And we would love a raise. I can't get off this podium without, I have to say that, All right, I'll see you at training. Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, you may.
Theodore John Fitzgerald.
Oh,
Wilkes-Barre.
wait till you get up there because we can hear you, but I know that it's a
Okay.
challenge for people who are on virtually. There's quite a few
Theodore
on.
John Fitzgerald, Wilkes-Barre City. I think, Ms. Velez and I, we talked earlier today, and we agree on a lot of things where we just want to believe in the integrity of the election system. And obviously across the nation, we don't, both sides don't. And I think that having drop boxes is just gonna be, I guarantee, no matter what happens, the day after is gonna be, they cheated. And basically, it's, there is more of a possibility of cheating with drop boxes. Ballot harvesting, it happens, and we agree it can happen on both sides. I'm not saying any which way, but we need to have more rules to make sure there's integrity than less. So if you want more ballot boxes, why don't we just have one at everybody's house? Let's have 230,000 at their houses, and let's get someone to pick them up at their houses because we're lazy or stupid or both. So the reason why, if y'all know your history, you know why Tuesday's election day? Because people back in the day, they used to go to church on Sunday, and they used to go to a town miles and miles away because voting was so important. So people that used to have horses and buggies got to the ballot, got to vote. And you're telling me today we have cars and we have everything else, and we can't get to a voting booth? That's bullharky. That's just a way to cheat. That's it. Now, I understand there are some people that are in hospitals. I do understand that there's people, veterans that need to vote. And obviously they should have, medical reasons that they can. I know if they said tomorrow, hey, you just won the lottery, but you got to be there at 4 p.m. to get the lottery ticket, I guarantee they'd show up for that. Their priorities need to be adjusted. And if they really want to vote, get off your butt and get down and vote and do it legally. Or at least where statistically proven there's less chance of fraud. And that's why it's horrible for these drop boxes, because the possibility of fraud goes up. And I guarantee after the election, someone's gonna say something was cheated. So let's try to get to it, voter integrity. And as far as, I think they need to scrub the list, make sure that there's nobody dead voting, make sure that we don't have any veterans things thrown in the garbage. I don't want to be the head of the news and, Fox News, CBN, NBC this year. I really like for that not to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, or is there anyone else who'd like to?
Can I say something for my seat then?
Well, we'd rather that you go to the podium if possible, because the microphone's up there and the public can't hear you.
I'm not really a good public speaker. It's new to me, so bear with me. You guys are
I'm
pros.
not either, so
I'm
I
a-
know right. I know right
I'm a
where you are.
novice.
All right,
My
I'm
name is-
sorry, your name
My name is John Ferdinand.
and what municipality are you from, Mr.
I'm
Ferdinand?
from Luzerne County.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay. I'm really going to piggyback off what Mr. Fitzgerald said there. It's not as much as it is a potential for cheating. It's that we've seen cheating. And we have elderly that go to the casino every night. They have no problem. They're in wheelchairs, jazzies, whatever. They're at the casino every night. They're at bingo every night. So this is a big excuse, and it's unfortunate. I think if there was a way to do away with this for an election and maybe try to bring it back in the future, it's a potion to cheat, and we've seen it, and we're really sick of it right now. Okay, we've studied it. We're not I'm not the most brilliant guy in the world, but I'm fairly educated, and we saw a swell of votes come in the middle of the evening for the current head of the administration. I know experts at numbers and votes, educated people, people from different areas, different states. Very unlikely for that to happen, they said, John. Okay, So we're not stupid. There's cheating. It has to stop. It has to stop now. And the mail-in ballots and all of this nonsense, drop boxes, are a recipe to cheat. The cheating has to end. We want it to end. If it doesn't end, you're going to have guys like me that aren't great speakers, and I'm quite loud. Not above reaching out to the masses, getting on the radio, because sooner or later, the jig is going to end. Because I'm not saying pointing a finger at anyone here or anyone we know, but we definitely have seen cheating. Want to have a fair fight. We're Americans. We're competitive. We're winners. Let's see a fair fight next time around, okay? I'm for it. I think you're for it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here? Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, dear. My name is Joe Novakuski, and I am a lifelong resident of Kingston. Don't be intimidated by my stack of papers here. I came with a prepared statement. It'll keep me definitely underneath the 4-minute mark. As I stated, I'm a lifelong resident of Kingston, not including my active duty military service time, which was approximately 7 years. Let me state that I am vehemently opposed to mail-in voting and drop-off ballot boxes, and my reasoning is as follows. As stated, I have approximately 7 years of active duty military service away from this area, which includes 2 tours in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. My Iraq tours were while I was a member of Wyoming Valley's 109th Field Artillery, composed of many Luzerne County residents and voters. On my first tour in 2004-2005, I voted in our election back here by absentee ballot. I did not have the luxury of a choice to vote in person. Now, thanks to the news media reports I've seen from the 2020 election, I believe it was, where the veterans' ballots ended up in the dumpster, I'm actually wondering if my vote was even counted way back when. How many of these military absent ballots were found in the garbage dumpster in Luzerne County in 2020? I'm not even sure we got the right number on that. One is too many, if you ask me. And is this once again the first time that this has happened? I would like to know if that's if there's any record of this happening in the past. Regardless, it's disgusting. Furthermore, during the first tour in Iraq in early 2005, we were tasked with providing security in a variety of functions for the first free elections of the Iraqi people after removal of Saddam Hussein. We put our lives on the line to ensure that they had the opportunity to vote in person, which was required. No ballot drop boxes there. Ingrained in my memory are the faces of Iraqi citizens smiling and showing their purple ink dyed finger as proof that they voted. That colored finger put them at a far greater risk of death than we faced here from COVID, according to the percentages that I have read. They risked death by voting, and we risked our safety to help facilitate their right to vote. In person here in Luzerne County, we are not currently facing an armed conflict and haven't for about 200 years. Mail-in voting should only be allowed in the most extreme cases for those physically unable to vote in person, not those unwilling to do so or too inconvenienced to do so. Sorry, but your own history here in Luzerne County shows mail-in voting and drop boxes subject to questioning and at times fraud. I find it to be an insult to the many citizens of Luzerne County, myself included, who exercise their civic duty and the right to vote in person, where I feel my vote stands the best chance of being counted and recorded. We'll discuss electronic election machines at another future date. In closing, here's what I believe. I believe one person, one signature, one valid ID, one paper ballot, all equal one vote. Then it's time to wave the flag and say, God bless America. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak, and I thank you for your service on this board.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There are some hands up virtually. I will start with Ms. Malcolmus. If you'd like to start, you just need to unmute. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to, I've been listening to this meeting and I just kind of wanted to weigh in on what the last three gentlemen were talking about. I'm not aware of any cheating that's happened in our elections. And I know there's been accusations. However, I believe that there has been no evidence that there was any cheating happening. The incident with the late night votes coming in was just, from my understanding, happening from the polling sites. And I've been a poll worker myself, a judge of elections, and I know that I wind up down at Penn Place at like 11:30 at night. You know, it's a late night kind of thing. To lump all the elderly in one category, saying that if they won the lottery, they would be there, or they could be at the casinos, to me is offensive, you know? I mean, yes, there are elderly that do get around quite well, but there's just as many, I'm sure, that have an issue in getting to where they need to be at any given time, not just to vote. And people that maybe blue collar workers that don't have the benefit of paid time off, if that's their shift, then they're either going to not get the proper money that they need, or they don't get to vote. And, you know, I just think that people aren't taking everyone into consideration. You know, we as Americans have a responsibility to make sure that everyone's vote is counted. And I just find it really offensive to, you know, for someone that is coming from a position of privilege that they don't have an issue in getting to the polls does not mean that everyone has that same opportunity. So I do support added mail-in drop boxes and mail-in voting. I think that that gives everyone the chance to vote, and then you talk about a fair election, that would be a fair election. Thank you.
Thank you.
The truth is always offensive.
There's another hand up. Mr. Griffith, go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board again. First of all, I'd like to welcome the two new members to the board. Thank you for your service and thank you for your willingness to help. This board is probably one of the busiest boards the county has, and your time will not be your own, as the other three will attest to. So thank you for your willingness to give up of your time to service the electorate of the county. Thank you for that. On the agenda item, I wanted to speak about a couple of items. I'm going to basically talk about the mail-in ballots as well. And the concern that I have, and I certainly understand there's case law that allows for mail-in ballots to be returned to a drop box, even though that's not what the legislature intended. The Supreme Court overruled that and said that the language that's in the statute that says that has to be returned to the Board of Elections is an error. The concern that I have is it doesn't seem that we advertise the fact that you could put absentee ballots in the drop box. All we advertise is that these are mail-in drop boxes for mail-in ballots. You can certainly put an absentee ballot in that drop box. The concern that I have is, does anybody know that that convenience, as we are labeling it, is a convenience? Even though I agree with the other gentlemen along the way, is I don't believe it's a convenience. I just think it's a cop-out. But clearly, I think if we're going to make it a convenience to put drop boxes throughout the county, so those folks who want to vote don't have to drive into the courthouse or put a stamp on their mail, then we need to make sure that everybody in the county is aware that that convenience is there, not those folks only that provide mail-in ballots only. The absentee ballots could be put in there as well. And the concern that I have is how many other, we've been doing mail-in ballots, I guess, since 2020 with the, since COVID. And I wonder how many absentee ballots were actually dropped in the drop boxes for the mail-in ballots and were commingled, because the absentee ballots, as Ms. Passaro alluded to, are supposed to be sent to the polling place on the day of election. So that if I choose to vote by absentee and my circumstances change that I could actually come into the polling place to vote, I could come in and request my absentee ballot be handed to me so I could spoil it or destroy it and then vote publicly at the polls. That's one of the options of voting by absentee, which is not afforded to us through the mail-in unless you actually bring in the paperwork. So I'm a little bit concerned about, we're doing mail-in ballot drop boxes and everybody's of the mindset that is for mail-in ballots, but those folks that do the absentees at the last minute can certainly drop an absentee in there, but they're not aware of that. The other concern I have with mail-in ballots is the guideline from the state that says we have to have a ballot process. And I know this board has been very diligent in making sure that we follow all the items that we're supposed to follow along the way. But the statute clearly say, or the guidelines, the Department of State's guidelines says we're supposed to establish a ballot return and collection plan 45 days prior to the election. I wonder if we have that plan out for the state to review for the special election that's going to happen in a week. But more importantly, what are we doing for the ones that are coming up in the general or in the primary? Do we have a plan that the state has looked at to say, yes, your plan is acceptable to the state, even though they don't have to approve it, it's recommended, but at least they would get a chance to review it and say, this doesn't work, this does work. So those items that are in that plan are very important items for the board to address. But the one that really is interesting is the one that talks about security. And it says that the security of the drop box is paramount to the plan. And it also says that the video is supposed to be available through 60 days following the deadline to certify the election. So my concern is if we're relying on these drop boxes to be placed at municipal buildings, libraries, you pick the location, how do we know that that video is going to be available 60 days after the election from that municipality or library, first of all? So I would suggest that possibly the board look at, if we're only going to have 5 or 6 drop boxes, possibly purchasing either a Ring camera or something of that nature, where we would actually have the video available. The subscriptions don't cost that much. And if any member of the board would actually like to monitor a Dropbox, they certainly could do that. I don't suggest that you spend all your waking moments watching your cell phone. But certainly, I think that we need to have responsibility of our own video and not rely on the municipalities. And I know my time has ended. I will close with just this one statement. The judge from Larksville stated that she voted by mail-in ballot, and it's convenient for her. Excuse me. It's convenient for her because she is a judge of election, and I understand that. She should be voting by absentee. That's the whole point of an absentee ballot. Is if you can't be at the polls for reasons that take you away from there, you're supposed to use an absentee ballot. And that's the confusion that we have throughout the county. So I know my time's expired. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak. I'll let it go at that. The poll changes, I'll address that after comment. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And welcome to the new members.
Thank you. Any other callers? Anybody else like to make public comment?
I didn't use all my time. Can I just 30 seconds?
No, you only get one time. Sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to.
There's a public comment at the end of the meeting also, if you'd like to use that time.
Awesome, thank you.
But now what we'd like to do is we received some requests, specific requests from some emails asking for their emails to be read during public comment, specifically requesting that their email would be read. And there are 11. So Mr. Castellani and I are going to go back and forth, and we're going to just quickly read these public comment letters from residents of the county who requested that. I'll start with Seth Bellio, and he states, to whom it may concern, drop boxes in Luzerne County give an unfair advantage to those looking to manipulate, destroy our election process. Unmonitored security camera footage coupled with an unregulated vote drop-offs gives ballot harvesting a rampant, thriving throughway to overcome the voice of the people. Though a 98-year-old with dementia is still a citizen in America, they are unfortunately a prime target for being manipulated by people with intent to influence an election. The same can be said for people who have mental health issues. In addition to ballot harvesting, there is the matter, location, times, availability. The majority of the boxes are located in public facilities, which are not available 24 hours or even running the same hours as a typical voting station. This can cause people to not have their voices heard because they do not have the means to make it to the box location or polling stations in time. With these concerns I have raised, I would hope our country use of drop boxes will be discontinued in future elections. Please read my email during the public comment on agenda items portion of this meeting.
This is from Lori Bellio. My name is Lori Bellio, and my husband and 6 children moved here over 30 years ago. We have been active participants in the election and political process. It is my understanding that the election board will be voting on the feasibility of drop boxes on Wednesday. Allowing drop boxes is a direct violation of election law, section 1306-D of Act 12. There really should be no need to discuss this issue as it is a direct violation of the written law. We want an honest and fair election. There is no need to include drop boxes as they are illegal. I would like to request that you read this email. Sincerely, Lori A. Bellio.
The next one is from Karen Piantka. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Drop boxes are needed in Luzerne County. Have consideration for the working voter who can't make it to the polls due to work and for the disabled or a veteran. As an American, we have a right to vote. Do not make it harder for the citizens.
This is from Kay Strickland. Hello, with the passage of Act 77, I eagerly embrace the ability to vote from my home. Mail-in ballots afford me the opportunity to read through the ballot and conduct research on issues and candidates I may not be familiar with before casting my vote. This process has made me more active, deliberate voter. That's good for democracy. Because of problems with timely delivery of our mail, I have chosen to drop my ballot directly at the Board of Elections at downtown Wilkes-Barre, the only available drop box for me. I have the schedule flexibility, the means, a car, and the physical mobility to accommodate that inconvenience. Many Luzerne County citizens do not. Drop boxes placed throughout the county, including the back mounted, would be enormously helpful in providing accessibility and convenience to every voter who wishes to take advantage of mail-in ballots. Surely increasing the participation in our elections is a goal of every election board member. I ask you to continue to expand the Dropbox program in this coming election cycle. Thank you, Kay Strickland.
This is from Joanna Martin, Luzerne, PA. I am sending this email to express my opposition in the use of ballot voting boxes. This is a violation of election law, section 1306/D of Act 12. I would like my email to be read during the public comments on the agenda items portion of the meeting.
This is from Reverend Kathy Patera. Election board members, first of all, thank you for your service. As a lifetime resident of Luzerne County for over 75 years, who votes in every election, I would like to make my thoughts known. I'm very concerned regarding your possible vote on drop boxes. Since the law states that electors should vote in person or by mail, which could be hand delivered and makes absolutely no provision for drop boxes. I'm asking you to follow the law and vote no to drop boxes. Drop boxes open the possibility of incredible fraud, including ballot harvesting. Also, they allow for election results to be questioned for years. Our founding fathers made for voters to go to the polls and vote, and to vote by mail in extenuating circumstances. The vote is sacred and should be cherished, respected, and done in accordance with the law. Please vote no to the drop boxes.
This is from Elaine Madden Curry. Dear Election Board, I want to commend you for providing ballot drop boxes in City Hall in Hazleton. As you are aware, drop boxes allow citizens the ability to conveniently turn in their ballots with secure structures in place and return their ballots on a timetable that works for them. Hazleton is a city with a large Latino population, many of whom work 12-hour shifts in distribution centers. The traditional hours of polling places make voting on a single day highly difficult, if not impossible. Drop boxes ensure voting is accessible to every eligible voter, no matter what their individual circumstances are. Your role as a member of the election board is to make sure all the citizens in Luzerne County are afforded a fair and accessible election process. Eliminating drop boxes serves only to make it more difficult for many registered voters to exercise their rights as citizens. I am asking you to maintain drop boxes now and in the future to help ensure we have a democracy that works for all. Sincerely, Elaine Madden Curry, inaugural member of the Luzerne County Council.
This letter is from Tracy Fassett. Dear election board members, please read this letter before the election board vote this Wednesday, March 23rd. I am a working citizen and taxpayer in Rouse Township, Luzerne County. I am a registered voter for over 30 years. I strongly oppose the drop-off ballots that will be voted on Wednesday. As a pediatric RN and small business owner working in my community, I strongly oppose the drop boxes as this will open us up to fraud. This is in direct violation of election law, section 1306-D of Act 12. Americans, we can do this better. We cannot let this fraudulent activity happen again as it happened in the past. Please consider honesty and integrity as you move forward. Please clean up our voting system in Luzerne County and place surveillance and security guards at all voting stations for safety and security.
This is from Bob Stevens. I am writing in order to express my opinion on the issue of drop boxes for upcoming elections. I was distressed to read that the most recent appointment to the board has expressed opposition to the continued use of drop boxes. I am a retired government and economics teacher, having taught for 30 years at Hazleton High School and then Hazleton Area High School. Throughout my career, I taught my students, who were typically seniors, that they had a civic responsibility to vote. In my opinion, there's no more important element in a democratic society than participation through the vote. I firmly believe that the key to a functional democracy is full citizen participation in the election process. It is thus incumbent on those who are charged with the responsibility of setting election standards to do all in their power to provide a system which makes participation as easy and accessible as possible. Our democracy is at its best with full participation. Every effort should be made to make voting more accessible, not less. There are simply no valid arguments to limit voter access via the use of mail-in and drop box voting. I reiterate, the higher the rate of participation, the more reflective, those elected are of the will of the people. It makes sense. If you survey 100 people on a subject, it will not result in as representative a result than if you survey 1,000 or 5,000. Bottom line, the larger the sample, the more reflective the result of the opinion of the population. I urge the members of the board to do the right thing. Restricting or in any way making it more difficult to vote is anti-democracy. Making voting easier, not more difficult, is the right thing to do. No one running for elected office should be afraid to have people vote, nor should those charged with the election process use their position to suppress the vote in any way. Please support mail voting and use of drop boxes for all future elections. Respectfully, Bob Stevens, retired teacher.
Can I make a comment on that?
No, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah. Greg Griffin. Dear members of the election board, I oppose ballot drop boxes as I believe there is a good possibility of election fraud, and it is not the possibility to identify the person who is dropping the ballots into the box. One or many ballots can be dropped into the boxes by a single unidentified person. Please do not allow our elections to be discredited. Please read my comments during this meeting. Very good.
What did you want to share?
Oh, I just wanted to correct on his letter that it is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. We have a democratic form of government, but that's okay. Go ahead.
So those are, it was actually 10, not 11.
We actually have plenty more. Please read my comments at your meeting. Please read your comments at my meeting. I know we can't spend all day reading comments at the meeting. However,
there were some who said, feel free to read my comments, but these specifically said, please read the comments at the meeting. I did not, that we received a lot of emails.
Over 60.
Yes.
Actually over 100, but there is one important one that I did. It says, please read at this meeting, and I
may have missed it. So go ahead.
It was just come in, so that's why.
Well, that's probably why, because I stopped reading them about 4:30, right before our meeting.
Yeah, it was. There was.
You put it in a time so you could.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
There you go.
So, this comes from Miss Jessica Morgan. I would like the following read at the election board meeting tonight as an agenda item. I am able to personally attest to the fact that there was ballot harvesting that took place in Luzerne County during the 2021 general election. I witnessed a woman trying to put numerous ballots into the small ballot box located on the second floor at the Penn Place building in Wilkes-Barre. The incident took place on October 29th between 3 and 3:30 in the afternoon. I had taken a class earlier in the day for judge of election, and the third floor on the 3rd floor, and after the class, I came to the election bureau on the 2nd floor to collect my necessary materials I needed for the upcoming election. While at the counter waiting for service, a woman tried to stuff the ballot box with a bag of ballots she had with her. I told her that what she was doing was illegal, and Andrea Hill, an election bureau employee, came to the counter and also told her that she could only put her in her ballot. The woman became very hostile and shouted that she did not know what the problem was since she had been doing it all week, and no one at the bureau had told her not to do it. She quickly left the bureau and walked down the hall to the elevators and got on her cell phone and told the person on the other end of the line that they would not let me do it. When I got home, I immediately emailed the county council, the election bureau, and the election board to let them know what had happened. I received a call from Stephen Urban, council member, to let me know he had received my email, and an email from Denise Williams from the election board. At several subsequent board meetings, I used Zoom to repeatedly voice my concerns about the incident, and learned during one of these meetings that the acting county manager had also witnessed someone trying to put more than one ballot in the box at the bureau. She stated that she had told the person that it was illegal. I was told by Ms. Williams that the DA had been consulted and had been consulted, but had said he had not he did not have the manpower to look at the videotapes to confirm what I was saying. She told me that I would have to go to my legislatures to resolve the problem and the law needed to be changed. I told her that I would follow up with my legislators, but I did not want the law changed PA, but that I needed the people at the election bureau to be made aware of the law and to ask the public to follow it. I have since contacted Aaron Coffer in Luzerne and was told he would get back to me within 24 hours. I am still waiting to hear from him. I contacted State Senator Doug Mastriano and was told by his office to call my own legislator. Then I put in a complaint with the Department of State website with Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch and with Tony Shoup of the organization Audit the Vote PA. As you would rightly assume, I'm very saddened by the lack of response I've received and hope that someone will check into this situation and contact me, Jessica Morgan, Dallas, PA 18612. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a request, and I think Harry, Peter, you might have turned the public off, but there's someone from the public who's requested to speak. So if you could bring them back in.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go right and just state your name and your municipality, please.
Yeah, my name is Jay Noda Tomaso. I live in Luzerne County. I'm a business owner for over 36 years. First, I'd like to appreciate you, Denise, for being articulate and fair and thorough and very informed about election laws. We need to be encouraging more people to vote and make access to voting easier, not harder. It's unbelievable to me that people still believe the lies that there is election fraud due to drop boxes and mail-in voting. Everything we've heard is hearsay. Drop boxes and mail-in voting is not a violation of any laws. This has been challenged in court repeatedly. The elections have been deemed legitimate. It appears that those who are against mail-in voting and drop boxes have bought into the propaganda because they can't admit that their candidate lost fair and square, and now they are trying to limit access. This is un-American and it is against our democracy. So drop boxes and mail-in voting also helps rural voters and working people. They're incredibly secure. There have been recounts after recounts, court challenges, lawsuits. Every single challenge right up to the Supreme Court has deemed the elections to be secure. So I'm really encouraging this propaganda and this effort to limit our democracy and voting rights to not go through.
I noticed one other comment. There's a Miss Priest Rhodes who is stating to please read her email. I apologize. I don't have hard copies with me.
I do.
I printed out only the ones that, and if you had requested it in the email, I apologize if I missed it too.
Actually, I have it right here.
Okay, very good. We do have
Would
it.
somebody
and-
like to read it or you want
Go
me
right
to?
ahead.
Okay.
Miss Fusaro will read it.
To the Luzerne County Board of Elections, when it comes to our elections, Luzerne County voters want a transparent process we can trust, free from needless barriers. No matter who we are or how we vote, every eligible voter in Luzerne County must have the freedom to vote and make the promise of our democracy real for us all. By offering voters accessible options to vote, we can ensure that every voter has an equal voice in the decisions that shape our future and ensure that our elections are fair, free, and accessible. Eliminating drop boxes is an unjust burden on Luzerne County voters who live in rural and remote regions of the county and forces people to drive great distances to the Board of Elections office in Wilkes-Barre. Furthermore, the elections office hours of operations, the election office's hours of operations from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. severely impairs the ability of voters to return their mail-in ballots without taking time off from work. Pennsylvanians have the freedom by law to choose how they wish to cast their ballots: in person on election day, by mail in ballot, or by using a drop box. The Luzerne County Board of Elections is obligated to empower its voters to exercise their freedom to make their voice heard. It is not the board's prerogative to impede access to the ballot box. As a Luzerne County voter, I demand freedom and vote fairly, freely, and easily. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we've covered all the public comment. Okay. I don't see any other hands up or any other. I'm sorry, the last person who wrote that was Tara Priest Rhodes did this.
Correct. T. Priest Roads at Yahoo.
It doesn't say the township or municipal.
Sawyersville.
Sawyersville.
I am so sorry.
Sawyersville.
Sawyersville, PA.
Okay. All right. So we're going to now move into approval of the meeting minutes from March 9th, 2022, and they were attached to the agenda. Their pages should be about pages 4 to 6. Sometimes they get shifted, but they're attached to the agenda. And is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 9th?
I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Castellani, is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Fusaro, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. The meeting minutes from March 9th, 2022 are approved. And now we'll move into the agenda items under solicitor, the board solicitor. And there's one agenda item, and that's the status of the Office of District Attorney election investigations.
Yes, we just want to clarify that, I think last time we reported on the 2021 primary investigations, but we want to clarify the fact that anything that was reported to the district attorney from the year 2021, whether it was the primary or the general election, is under investigation by the DA, and the district attorney informed us that he will be issuing a report within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with the agenda items for the Bureau of Election, we'll start with number 1 is the proposed Wright Township 2022 primary ballot question discussion and board vote. That was pages 7 through 10 attached to the agenda. And I believe Attorney Dean, their solicitor, is on with us to take any of the board's questions. I know I myself did have a question Attorney Dean. And I'm just going to read the question first and then the explanation that will go with it on the primary ballot. So the question that's been presented to the board, and the board has to vote and approve any ballot questions, any questions that go on the ballot. Again, this is for Wright Township. And so their proposed question is, shall Wright Township increase its annual real estate tax by 0.3 mils dedicated to the purchase and maintenance of fire apparatus? And then the explanation under it that would go with that question would be, the proposed explanation is, Wright Township is asking whether the voters will agree to allow Wright Township to raise taxes by 0.3 mils, which tax increase would be given to the Wright Township Volunteer Fire Company only for use to purchase and maintain firefighting equipment. And my question was, one of the kind of the litmus tests for a ballot question would be, does the question or questions give the voter a clear understanding of the purpose, limitation, and effects of the ballot question on the people? And my only question is, in looking at this 0.3 mil increase, I don't really know if that's a lot, a little. Like I know what my millage is. I looked at it. It's the same as Wright Township. And what that would mean, the number of residences, I don't know for Wright Township. But does this denote a large purchase? Are they looking at like a fire truck, which I doubt, because that's probably lots and lots of money? Or is this just something like for, and I'm thinking of like the public on this. Like I'm thinking as the voter who's going like, is this a very large purchase that they're looking at? Because to me, if I heard, they needed a fire truck, that might be a little different to me than if it's just apparatus for the fire trucks, the ambulances, equipment or gear for the firemen. And my question is, does it need a little bit more? Or is this sufficient? That's what I'm just sharing with the other board members. I don't know. So maybe you know a little bit more about it.
Sure. Again, Jack Dean, again, thank you guys for having us here today and entertaining this. As with many volunteer fire companies throughout the Commonwealth and throughout the nation, Wright Township's volunteer fire company is struggling financially as well as obtaining volunteers. So what we have tried to do is try to support them as much as possible. The 0.3 mils total for Wright Township, total, not per house, would raise approximately $250,000 to $260,000, depending on collections, which our collections are pretty good. They're 90% now. So it's more to build up a fund for them to purchase apparatus and equipment in the future. It is not, if they could get something for $250,000 next year, God bless them, but they're going to have to, because the equipment costs a lot more than that. So I'm not sure that.
So the question, I think her question, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think her question is, should the question on the ballot reflect that need a little bit more? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, however you want to word it, I can revise this ballot. I can revise the plain English version and get it over to you tomorrow, if that's satisfactory. I mean, to say that, I mean, I think we'd have to work on it tonight. Wright Township is asking whether the voters will allow Wright Township to raise taxes by 0.3 mils. To us, I mean, I'm trying to think how I can even be more clear. Would be given to the Wright Township Volunteer Fire Company only for the use of purchase and maintain firefighting equipment, which is an ongoing need. I'm not sure how much.
As a taxpayer, I would ask the question, how long is this for? Is this for 10 years, 20 years? Is this forever?
No, this is until we reduce it. So if we raise the taxes by 0.3 mils until we reduce it, it would continue on. So we can put that.
Taxpayers would want to know how long that is. 10 years?
So it would be permanent.
Sounds like it's permanent.
It's like no other tax increase, whether it's for firefighting equipment or just a general tax increase. Until the municipality reduces it, it stays on.
Okay, that would be up to them to decide. My only question was, did it need to be a little more? I know now it's not like it's a huge purchase, not like a fire truck. That would be a lot more. So I understand it's more for smaller type maintenance purchases.
I mean, I'm open to suggestions on the plain English version, because I did struggle with that, frankly.
Yeah. Purchase and maintain firefighting equipment. I mean, it answers it for me. It wasn't anything like specific. That was the one question I had. Was it something specific? One large?
No, it is not.
But it's just really for the purchase and maintenance of firefighting equipment. I'm okay with it now. I mean, unless anybody thinks that there's any more clarity that they can come up with to help. I'm okay with it. All right. All right. With that, I will make a motion to approve the Wright Township 2022 primary ballot question and explanation as submitted.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Fusaro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. The Wright Township 2022 primary ballot, proposed primary ballot question is approved for this primary ballot. Thank you very much for coming and.
No, my pleasure.
Okay.
My pleasure. Thank you again. Thank you guys for doing what you're doing. I know it's a lot of time and energy. Take care.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the special election polling places. It's page 11, should be right around page 11. And this needs to be approved by the board. Let me find mine. Okay, so there are 33 special election polling places that are on that list for the April 5th, 2022 116th Legislative District special election. Any input, questions, concerns, discussion by the board?
Mr. Sussex, are you here?
Yes, hi.
Just wondering if you found an answer to that question I had asked him earlier. There was one of the wards, Hazleton City wards, that we were checking on parking to see if the free parking had been approved for outside the polling place, because it's a general, like an often ticketed and towed area. And from previous meetings, I had known that they were asking to see if we had requested that from the mayor to get that approval or not. Were you able to find out?
Hi, thank you. So one of my staff is in communication with the city of Hazleton. I have not got a final determination from them just yet, but we will continue to follow up with them.
Okay, so it's Hazleton Ward 2. Hazleton City Ward 2, Lackawanna College. That one is in question, and it could be a major issue for the public if they are unable to park or they get towed.
Sure, and I will say, unless something came through to my predecessor, I haven't received any complaints as far as persons being ticketed or towed on election day. But if there is that information that can be made available to me, I would be happy to to follow up on that as well.
Any other questions or input, concerns with any other board members? Okay, is there a motion to approve the special election polling places?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Ms. Cerniak made the motion. Mr. Castellani made the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition?
Yes. Until we know the
Because you don't
status
have,
of parking.
you don't have a resolution about the parking.
So 2 noes, 3 yeses. Any abstentions? Motion passes, 3 yeses, 2 noes. The special election polling places as submitted here are approved by the board. We'll move to item number 3, the special election mail-in ballot status. Turn it over to Mike to kind of give us an update, then open up to the board members for any questions.
Sure. So we have already begun delivering the files to our vendor. Those are the files of the eligible voters in the 116th district. So all that, the first big batch of mailings did go out Friday. So my understanding is we did get at least our first phone calls yesterday that individuals are receiving their ballots. I will say the way that the process works is that we receive a file every day from the state office. Comes through us through a secure file transfer. And are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear
Sorry,
you.
it sounded like I was getting some feedback there. So we received from the state through a secure file transfer, a file of all the voters who have requested mail ballots. And we will continue to process those, as those requests are able to keep coming in. And what we do then is we upload that file to another secure file transfer server that goes directly to our mail ballot print and mail ballot fulfillment vendor. And then they actually prepare the mailing for us and deliver mail the ballots out, deliver the ballots pre-sorted to the post office. So that process is going to be ongoing now. On a daily basis, we get that file from the state and send it to the vendor, and they mail the ballots out. So at this point, we have not received any mail ballots back, but like I mentioned, we are just now hitting the mailboxes. We did deploy the 2 ballot boxes to Hazleton and to right here at Penn Place, and the drop box at our location is going to be open during our normal business hours, which is weekdays from 9 a.m. to 4:30. That's at Penn Place. We will also be open on Penn Place for ballot drop off until the close of polls, until 8:00 p.m. So voters will be able to come and drop their ballots off here. At the Hazleton location, that will also be available weekdays. Their office is open. The municipal building there is open from 8:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. So the ballots will, that drop box will be available to the public during that time. And we are, however, our deputies are bringing that ballot box back the day prior to the election to allow time for processing everything that's come in. So on election day, voters who haven't returned their ballot yet, they can drop their ballot off here at Penn Place. Again, we'll have that drop box open until 8 p.m. They can also, if they're a mail ballot voter, they can go to the polls and actually surrender that ballot and vote in person. Or if they have lost or misplaced that ballot, they can go to the polls and vote a provisional ballot. And as the board is aware, what happens then after the election is we verify that mail ballot hasn't been received yet. And if it hasn't been, then the provisional ballot is counted as long as the voter is otherwise eligible. So that process will continue through election night.
Any questions, concerns, input, discussion on behalf of the board members regarding the special election mail-in ballot item under your status? The only thing I want to say is I had put here to go over that whole bit that I shared with Ms. Velez about what applying so late by the March 28th deadline. And if you do that, be careful if you're a mail-in ballot user, but I won't go over that again. But I had one other item I wanted to share. And when the board did adjudication at the last election, I just want to remind the mail-in ballot voters that, you have some hurdles to get over when you do a mail-in ballot. And some mail-in ballots we could not count when we did adjudication because of deficiencies in these ballots. Some weren't signed. It won't count if it's the back of the envelope is not signed. If you don't put the ballot in the inner secrecy envelope and then inside the outer envelope, it's considered a naked ballot and it won't count. That vote won't count. And so what I'm saying is, and it must be dated. So what I'm saying is, follow the instructions very carefully if you're a mail-in voter, or an absentee voter, because we had to disqualify those, because that's the law, and we have to follow the law when we do the adjudication. So just a little reminder about that. Anybody else want to share anything before we move on to the next agenda item?
No.
Okay. Number 4 under Bureau is the special election poll worker trainings. Number of poll workers signed up, number not signed up, number of new judges of election, minority and majority inspectors, machine operators and clerks not signed up, and plan for addressing those not signed up.
Okay, yeah, so yesterday we began our poll worker training for this election. The one thing that is a little bit different this year is we are doing paper-based poll books. So we're not doing the separate electronic poll book training. So it's a little smaller. The training is a little bit smaller in scale. Those are all actually happening out in Hazleton Township, just for the convenience of the poll workers out there. The last that I looked, which is a little earlier today, we had, I believe it was just over 100 poll workers signed up. As far as how many, the total number of poll workers that we would have, it does vary because it's not, a polling place can be open if there's only 3 poll workers. So sometimes we'll have a 4th machine operator. But if we generally, we say about 180 is what we're targeting for this election. So not all 180 have, so I guess I'll just cut to the chase. Yeah, sorry, I'm rambling there. About 100 out of 180 have actually signed up for the training at this point. I have had a little, oh, sorry, go ahead.
They can still sign up.
Yes, absolutely. They can still sign up. We can still reach out to them this week. We still have trainings going on for several more days. Like I said, we just began our training yesterday. And let's see here.
They're targeting for 180,
But we have 100. Okay.
Oh, sorry, can I help clarify something? Or?
No, I didn't hear you, so I was just
sorry.
asking.
Nope, that's okay.
I was just asking what you said, that's all. I'm sorry.
So she was just asking, is it 100 signed up out of 180 poll
That's
workers?
fair.
So
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yes.
and so there's still 80. Those 80 who aren't signed up, does the Bureau intend to contact them to let them know of the dates that are left and if they're planning to sign up or no?
We can do that. We
Leaving it up to them.
No, we do have some additional staffing resources right now that we can make some phone calls. Now would be a good time to do that because they still have a couple more training opportunities.
Yeah,
okay. Good. All right. I do have a quick question backtracking on the last agenda item because I see in the drop down chat box here. And I'd like to know the answer to this too. Mr. Griffith earlier had asked the question, Mike, if absentee ballots can be placed in the mail-in ballot boxes, commingled in there. Is that okay?
Yeah, so first the distinction that's made is I think on the average voter probably intermingles those two expressions. I know I'm guilty of doing it as well.
Yeah, I know.
An absentee voter is, and they're both getting a mail-in ballot. The practice is that they're going to mail the ballot back. The difference is that the absentee voters is what Pennsylvania, has had for a long time, where if you're, if you have a reason to vote by mail, you can request an absentee ballot. You're going to be absent from the precinct on election day. Whereas the mail-in ballots that's the no excuse, the more recent legislation. So let's see here. So we do accept, our current practice is to accept, either of those ballots at the drop box. I know he had brought up an issue of whether they are required to turn those in at the polling place. That's something I would consult with our solicitor if that's the case. However, when we receive those, we haven't been handling those differently.
So if someone submits an absentee and somebody submits a no excuse mail-in ballot, they both go into the poll book, I'll say the electronic poll book. I know the special election is used in the paper poll book. But either way, it's recorded and noted that they would have requested an absentee or requested a no excuse mail-in. So if somebody shows up at the poll, they're treated pretty much the same, whether it's the provisional or spoiling.
Correct. Yeah. All the voter, all the
They're not actually. If they actually submit an absentee ballot, they can go to the polling place, say, I want my absentee ballot back. I would like to vote in person. And then they can get that back from that polling place.
Their absentee ballot.
And vote in person. Yes, absolutely. That is the law. That is why the absentee ballots need to be sent to each polling place for the person that is not there to vote. Because if they change their mind at the last minute with an absentee ballot, they can go to that polling place, take their absentee ballot back, and they have that right, and vote in person. Absolutely.
Okay. Mike, could you respond to that?
So I can tell you that our practice is when the voter, when a voter shows up at a polling place, if they are a mail-in ballot voter or an absentee voter, so the poll book, whether it's the paper poll book or the electronic poll book, will reflect that. And so that immediately the poll worker has to pause, and they will either, what they're going to learn from the electronic poll book or the paper poll book is if that mail ballot or and I'm just going to interchange the two, but the mail ballot has already been received by the Bureau, meaning a voted ballot is already in our possession for that voter, then that person who's at the polling place, their only option is to vote a provisional ballot. Because according to our records, that person has already voted.
Do the poll workers have the absentee ballots of the absentee voters at the polls?
Poll workers do not have a separate inventory of absentee ballots.
They would not have in their possession anybody's voted ballot.
I would well, correct, because a voted ballot can be in the mail stream.
They're being pre-canvassed on polling day, right? At the Bureau, the absentee and mail-in ballots. They're in pre-canvass.
Well, correct. I mean,
be at polls.
Well, like I said, the absentee ballot could actually, be in transit or could be still on a kitchen table. So if so the mail ballots themselves, the absentee ballots are not delivered to the polling place.
No.
Absentee ballots have to be in before a specific time. That is why they will be available at the polling place.
Are absentee ballots able to come in up until 8 o'clock on election day?
That's my understanding. Yes, I'm happy to. What I would encourage the board to.
That's my understanding too. If you have any other information that's different than that, Ms. Fusaro, if you could get that together and if you could share that with the other board members.
I'm thinking things were changed with Act 77 with that. But I can't really. I'd have to look that stuff.
So there's public comment at the end.
Sure, and I do take the. I absolutely appreciate the input, and I do take that seriously. And I would encourage, if our solicitor, after the meeting, we can discuss that. There are still provisions in the law, for example, that refer to that you must mark an X and stuff like that. So there are some archaic provisions in the law. So I don't know if that's something that we can discuss after the meeting with the solicitor for sure to make sure that we're in compliance.
Sure. Okay. All right. Sounds good. We can get some clarification on that. And then I think that I'm already thinking ahead to, well, our next meeting isn't until the end of April, because we have the election coming up, and there will be a special meeting called for probably the certification, or could be the certification of that election, could also be at our next regular meeting. But I'm already going to make a note that at our next meeting to add that as an agenda item, just for informational purposes for the public. And we do have a primary coming up, and so that we're all on the same page and we're all aware of the how that all works. So I'm going to write that down, since there are some questions. And if the board members aren't sure, and they're the ones that are supposed to share with the public what and advise, then I think we need to make sure all the board members understand clearly about absentee ballots. So we'll move to the next agenda item, which is number 5, special election bilingual English-Spanish poll worker status for the 11 Hazleton city polls and the 2 West Hazleton polls. Just if you have any idea yet, I know that you have the trainings going on right now, Mike, of any idea of the status of that.
Sure. So as we started hiring the poll workers, well, hiring them, they're elected. I just saying hiring, but yes. So as we started placing them in their positions for this election, at that point we had been collecting that information. That was some weeks ago. So what we are doing now, it is on our application on our website, and our trainer is soliciting that information from the poll workers at the class. So I don't have that information right now, but as they are coming back from the trainings, I could begin to collect that information.
Very good. I did know, went to the first training, and I did note that it's on the sign-in sheet that asks if the poll workers bilingual. So thanks for adding that. Any questions or input, discussion from the board members on that agenda item? Okay. We'll move to item number 6 under the Bureau is special election logic and accuracy testing follow-up information.
Sure. So last week we completed the public logic and accuracy testing of the voting system. It's for the public's benefit, it's a pre-election test that we're required to do of the voting equipment. And it establishes that the machines are tabulating correctly. We actually put test ballots through the machines where we know what the count of that, we know what the hand tally is of those, and compare that to the results tapes. The test was completed successfully, and I will be submitting that information to the state. They did send me the official sign-off sheet, and my understanding from the board is you're okay with me submitting that sign-off sheet on your behalf.
Okay. Any questions, discussion, input from the board members? We'll move to item number 7, special election ballot drop boxes, locations, opening and closing dates. Some of this you just mentioned earlier, and times, signage, ballot retrieval and chain of custody, process, public information for drop boxes information. So if you want to just break that down and those topics, some of them you already shared with us. I know that.
Sure. And first I would like to apologize. There's no inaccuracies in it, but when you receive your mail-in ballot or your absentee ballot, there will be a voter instruction sheet. At the time of print, we did have the drop box locations, but we had not made a firm decision on the times. So we will be getting that information onto our website. Hopefully, our goal will be to have all that information, inside the ballot packet for the primary election. So what we are doing is on beginning next week on Tuesday, Thursday, and then the Monday before the election, there will be teams of sheriff's deputies that will be going out with bags that have a serially numbered tamper evidence seals on them. And so they will be taking those out with a chain of custody log. They'll be removing the ballots from those drop boxes, bringing them back to the Bureau. Again, when they arrive here, we'll complete the chain of custody forms as well and have those ballots. Obviously we cannot start opening them or anything like that until election day, but what we do once we start receiving them is scanning them into the state system so that we can report back to voters whether or not their ballot has been received. And we will also begin the pre-sort for the board for the canvassing, pulling aside ballots that are missing signatures, for example. We'll begin doing that process. So and then ballots are moved into a secure room every evening, and that will continue daily until ballots are ready to be counted on election day morning, at which point they'll go to the tabulation room, and that's the same location that it was last year, up on the third floor of Penn Place. There will be a public viewing area, as there was last year, to observe that process. Let me see what else we have here. That is very much. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's very much the short of it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just have a couple of questions myself, and then if any of the other board members have any questions. The last election, there was the new process. It was not really new, but there was a revamped process for the pre-canvassing of the mail-in ballots. And a little bit more organized, but in the flow of it, if you remember, Mr. Susik, it started at one table and the ballots moved through the room through the different processes. So first checking for the signature, checking for the date, then it was opened and checked for the secrecy envelope, then checked for any identifying marks on the secrecy envelope, and then that was opened, and then the flattening of the ballot for the machines. So my question is with the sorting, that all of those no signatures, no dates, identifying marks, no secrecy envelopes, that's all done during pre-canvassing, correct? On that election day morning?
Correct. Yeah. At that point, we'll also begin segregating the ballots into, from the received batches, segregating out the ones that are missing that inner envelope, and cataloging all those, very similar to how you saw it last year. Probably just about exactly the way you saw it last year.
Okay, good. I like that.
Where then all
process.
those,
I thought it was
yeah,
very good.
yeah. So all of those ballots that need to go to the board's review, they will be segregated and made available to you.
All right. The only other question I have is if the signage on the ballot drop boxes also includes at some place or nearby that the box is under 24-hour video surveillance.
I will have to follow up on that with you. I'm sorry. I'll have to verify that's the case.
Also,
they are under video surveillance. It's just that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But is there like
But
a
it's
sign
the question of whether or not
somebody-
there's a sign that informs of that. Correct.
Is there signage on the ballot drop box in the election bureau, the small one on the counter, that also is identical to the signage on the larger ones?
I apologize. I don't have an answer for that, but I can absolutely check on that.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from any of their board members that they'd like to ask for this agenda item?
Excuse me, ma'am, does that mean the drop boxes are past the?
Public comment is, you're welcome to ask public comment at the end of the meeting.
That is a special election. These were voted on beforehand. I will give you that. This is something that was, this is something else. That's for the special election. They're passed already. You're welcome.
Okay. No other questions or concerns by the board members on that item?
Who provides the video surveillance for these boxes?
Would you like to speak on that, Mr. Susik?
Sure. I will absolutely confirm this information, but all of our information, we do have the county security that monitors everything here at Penn Place, and I will verify who is our point of contact at Hazleton that will have the those videos.
So what you're saying is for each location, it could be a different vendor or a different, or the city of Hazleton, or depending on where it is, correct?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions.
All right, we'll move to the next item, which is number 8, special election, pre-canvassing of mail-in. Did I just do that?
Well, we kind of drove it in.
Oh,
kind of
well,
went
okay.
from one to the other, but there
Okay.
still might be information we need on that one.
Yeah, pre-canvassing of mail-in ballots. I think we just did that. Process overview and canvassing of ballots, process overview. Process for judge of election bag collection on election night and flash drive collection and chain of custody process. So we did just review the pre-canvassing of mail-in ballots. So the process for the canvassing is also pretty clear cut. It's, if you could just talk to the process for the judge of election bag collection on election night and flash drive collection and the chain of custody process for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, for the voters' benefit who may not be as familiar with the process, the ballots at the polling places all go through optical scanning devices that they actually scan the ballots and tabulate the results. After election, after the close of polls on election night, when voting is complete, the machine goes through a closing process, and the memory card, which actually contains the votes. So well, for starters, I'll say the machine prints several copies of the results tapes. We retain some, we post them at the polling place. One goes home with the poll worker. So those are available for verification. What we then do is that memory card is removed from the device. There is a seal on that ballot, there's a seal on that compartment of the device. So I'll just say throughout the process, there is a chain of custody where anytime you're entering a secure part of the machine, or any part where there's an input for the machine where you could possibly put a thumb drive or anything like that, those are sealed, and there's a chain of custody process that goes along with that. So those memory cards are removed from the device, and they are placed into a secure blue bag. Those bags are they're similar to like the heavy duty banker bags, and then they are specific to each location. A couple secure items come back in those bags, and those bags there's a seal log that goes actually inside the bag. So we're writing the seal number on that form, placing it inside the bag, zipping and sealing the bag shut. Then those materials are returned by the judge of election and a passenger, which typically that's the majority or minority inspector. They will bring those ballots back to our drop-off locate to our. Some of them come back to the bureau during a normal election. Most of them come back to the bureau office directly at Penn Place. We have another designated drop-off location in Hazleton. So then all those will be brought to that central location, and then we'll, with an escort, we'll have all those brought back to the bureau. When we then check those in election night, and we repeat that same chain of custody process. Before we open the bag, verify that the seal number matches the seal matches the number that was recorded on the seal log itself. And at that point, and that all happens right up here in the where the servers are, where that information is uploaded directly to our tabulation servers. And that process will just continues on election night until everything has been uploaded.
Could the board have a copy of the sign-off sheets for the flash drives for both the administrative assistants and that do that process of check-in and collection of the flash drives, and also a copy of the form that whoever is inputting them into to upload them to the website? And if we could have a copy of that sheet where they would be checked off. I would imagine you have some kind of form that you've created that you will be a checkoff list for those flash drives.
Yeah, we can submit copies of all that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Susick, could we have a full print up of this plan. Okay, I think it's important that we have, okay, so-and-so is bringing it here. We have this all documented, knowing exactly who's bringing what, where, what times, when we have this. Obviously, we can have that between the board members and you, but I think it's imperative to have this plan. In fact, it kind of says so in the law that we have that submitted, that plan submitted to the state as well. And I don't know if you've submitted it to the state. If you have, could we get a copy of that?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, we can provide copies of everything that we have to the board.
Great, thank you.
The only other question I have about is going back to the pre-canvassing. And it's not just for the special election, it's for any election. And I know I've already shared this with the solicitor and the other board members. I just have a question. I just want to kind of tidy up who's allowed into the pre-canvassing room on election day at the Bureau, and up and through the canvassing as well, when the mail-in votes are then tabulated, put through the scanners. From what I've read in the law, is one authorized representative for each candidate and one authorized representative for each political party. And I know at the last election, we addressed this somewhat and tidied this up. And we had a sign-in sheet. And we asked as people entered, but I'm pretty sure that we kind of took their word for it when they said, oh, I'm with such and such or so-and-so candidates, or I'm the representative for the political party. And I'm just wondering if I'm thinking of the safety and the security of the poll workers in that room and the integrity of the election process itself and the votes in that room. Is there a way, if you have to be credentialed to get into a poll, to be a poll watcher, shouldn't you, my question is, do we as a board want to say, you have to be credentialed? You have to have some kind of written authorization that you received ahead of time from the Bureau, like poll workers have to get, and they have to show the embossed seal, that you're allowed in that room. And so this is a conversation I'd like to have with the board, what your thoughts are on that.
I think it's a great idea. I think that there's given enough time, there is enough time beforehand that everybody should be able to have whoever they're representing sign off, even if we print up a card or something.
I think the Bureau has forms. I've seen other bureaus do. I don't know, Mike, that would be a question for you. If there's a form that you have that someone could fill out. I've seen some very simple forms from other counties to do this. I think I shared them. There were 2 counties that required forms for entering into their pre-canvassing and canvassing rooms of the mail-in ballots. It'd be easy enough to make up and verify by that candidate ahead of time that they are in fact their authorized representative. Do you have anything, Mike, there that you know of, or?
Ms. Williams, I don't mean to interrupt you, but last time we did accept letters from candidates and we had a folder by, so we did make them bring a letter to say that they were the candidates. If they were not the candidate, then that they were the candidate's representatives.
Okay.
If they were the candidate, I think we took their word for them that they were the candidate.
Yeah.
By virtue of the fact that other people knew who they were.
Okay, so a letter from the candidate saying so-and-so has my permission to be at the pre-canvassing as my representative, or the party chairs could.
Personally, I like your idea better. I really think it'd be simple, like if we had just a simple format, even if they brought the letter in advance and we gave them a card, because then we know what that looks like. And it's already been approved through the Board of Elections or through the office. Okay. And they've been given that. If we can get that somehow streamlined, that we know what it looks like, Because if we have like 5 people in a room and each person brings a letter and we don't know if it's, you know what I mean? I think it would just be nicer to, and they can keep that too. It's like nice for them too, you know, I think it'd be better.
Right. Okay.
I think if it was a little more streamlined of a process, it'd be a little better. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think this has been a little bit of a work in process. Each election, we seem to be taking this a little bit step farther, and we're getting there with it. I really do believe it. And I don't know, other board members are, discussing a letter, a form. Your thoughts on either, both, one or the other, preferences?
I would rather go with a form.
I'd rather go with a card.
card.
They can actually put where, so this way we know who they are.
Like a credential.
Yep, credentials.
Yeah, because then we all know what it looks like.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
we don't
nicer.
even have to ask them, we should see it. Okay, so, and then the second part of that is like, who polices this? Who's going to be the, like, at a poll, I guess, when the judge of elections would be responsible for saying, who are you? And, well, the poll watcher would.
Yeah, but they would have a
They would,
credential.
they would say,
Well, it
hey, I'm a
happens at
poll
the
watcher.
It happens at the office, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we do. They come into the vestibule where that little glass enclosure is. They come in, they say, I'm here, they show their ID, we let them through the door. I mean, I don't see a big process in the fact, I mean, we're gonna have security there.
Yeah.
Once the security guards, that's what I'm saying, once security sees what one of them knows what it looks like, and it's been signed off on, I think it makes it a lot easier for that form. They're not gonna sit there, a security guard is not gonna sit there and read through a letter and say, okay, give me your ID and everything else. If that can be streamlined ahead of time at the office, then all that person has to do is come up and show their card. And then the security guard says, yes, hey, come on in, it makes it a lot easier.
Maybe like those clip-on name
Yeah,
tags.
even like something like
This,
like
the lanyard
what-
might be a little more expensive, but those clip-on name tags are cheaper.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Susik, when someone wants to be a poll watcher at a poll, they have to get credentials, correct?
Correct. What they do, they come to our office. They complete basically like the candidate, whoever they're representing, is going to complete, that could be the party chair, that could be the candidate, is going to complete a short form, just identifying that person and basically saying they're a registered voter of the, whichever district it happens to be, that's, pertains to that race. They're going to complete that form. Our staff will then look them up in the voter registration system just to make sure that they actually are a registered voter. And then they are issued a certificate. And then they take that certificate with them to the polls and present that to the judge of election.
Okay.
This is basically the
Yeah,
same thing.
okay, so.
Yeah, there's an established process for that. So if the board wanted to do something like that for,
Pre-canvassing.
it
of
wouldn't be
the
too hard for us to
mail-in ballot
do that.
canvassing. Okay, so, and the last part of that is, media is not allowed in pre-canvassing canvassing at all.
Correct. That would be
Okay.
Because of the.
They're
I
not
would
allowed in
think
the polls either. I was rereading this law and so pre-canvassing isn't allowed, correct? I think Ms. Raddick.
Jen's very upset over there. She's like, you just let me off the hook, okay? I don't even care.
Yes,
Yeah,
I mean, we
that's-
didn't, the last election, we followed exactly, we did not allow media entering pre-canvassing.
Okay. All right. Any other input by any of the other board members anymore? But I'm going to make a motion. Let's see if I can get this. I'll make a motion that going forward to entrance into the mail-in, just gonna say mail-in ballot, pre-canvassing, canvassing room requires a poll watcher certificate that follows the guidance for poll watchers for the polls. Okay, sounds good. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Fusaro, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion passes unanimously. Would you like to reread that for me?
Well, what I have here is, let's see, going forward, entrance to into the processing room, pre-canvas room, requires a certificate following the poll watcher certificate procedure.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, next item is the election group. I know we've discussed this, and I'm just wondering if there's a plan date for a summary proposal submission. If anything's come up with that.
Yeah, we have been in communication with them. We do not have a, we have not, we don't have a date.
Okay, and that was, they were going to propose a summary, what that would be, how much it would cost. Just want to remind on that because it's been a little while. And this was for the November election. This summary would be for. Okay. Any questions, input, concerns from any of the other board members on that? Okay, the next one is the primary election, the final reapportionment plan for state legislative districts in the modified election calendar. I just really put this on for Mr. Susik to be able to give the public, a little information on this.
Okay, yes, happy to. So, so in addition to running 2 elections that are 6 weeks apart in kind of an uncharted special election territory, we are also going through reapportionment right now. I am so a reapportionment, that's just the, again, for the public's benefit, that's all the redistricting and redrawing of the maps that's going on for your congressional, state house, state senate seats. I am very happy to report that my staff has really rallied and put some effort into this, where we have updated, I'll tell you the exception. We've basically updated everything in short to reflect the district changes so that we're prepared for the primary election. Until we did that, voters would, voters may have, a month ago, they were living in the 117th district and now they're living in the 120th. So we had to have that correct for the primary. So we have begun an initial audit of our work and everything's been looking really, really good. We have, the only thing we haven't done at this point, in Butler Township District 5, that used to be all congressional 8, that's now dividing into congressional 8 and 9. So what we have to do very carefully is, and GIS is supporting our efforts here, is making sure that at the street level, luckily Butler is not an incredibly population dense area, but it's still a lot of streets that we need to make sure that basically every address is in the correct congressional district going forward. So we are doing that. We also have not touched the 116th House district just because of the special election going on. The state, we are consulting with the state on whether or not it's, when it's, for lack of a better word, when it's safe to do that. We want to make sure that if we change that district now, that's not going to impact any of the voters who are participating in the special election, because of course they're voting based upon the old boundaries. So we are, we expect to have that process finished. I really hope that we can have that process finished up this week. So I know the special election is our top priority right now, but the truth is we're running 3 very critical processes concurrently. So I'm very, very happy. Staff has really done a fantastic job, helping with that effort. So let's see here. The challenge then from if you click on the link that's in the agenda is, so basically the primary election date has not changed, but there is a condensed deadline to get ballots out. There's a condensed deadline for petitions. So when you start thinking about it, normally your really active election process starts about 60 days out, where you're kind of finalizing the candidate lists and actually starting to lay out and proof your ballots. If you look, the deadline to circulate nomination petitions is all the way through March 29th. They could actually turn them into they can turn into the state all the way through, let me get this correct. It's the Monday following. The state just extended the petition circulation period. So, so really until the very, very end of March, we are not going to have, we may not have a certified official list of candidates. The state's been really good communicating with the counties. They've been sending us unofficial lists and being very specific that these are unofficial, but they can help you with your military ballots. They can help you with your kind of your initial ballot layout. But I know it's a desire of the board, and I absolutely agree to try, get ballots out, get ballots out to the voter as early as we can. But that's going to be, and I've already started communicating with our vendors about this, but we'll be successful, but it's going to be a huge challenge. I kind of looking at it as that we're kind of looking, we're sort of losing 2 weeks out of a 60-day period. So it's a big, it's going to be a huge effort. We will get it done though. And so,
thanks for that. Thanks for that overview. Any
sure, and
questions, input?
Oh, and just so,
Go ahead.
so the voters are aware, if you look up your record in the state system now, we are finalizing that information. So it's, you will all the voters who've had a change in district will receive a voter information card in the mail that will let them know that, they're no longer in the 8th congressional, they're now in the 9th congressional and so forth.
Okay, all right. Any questions, input, board members? Okay, we'll go to the next item. We might have already done this, but poll watcher certificate. Okay, poll watcher certificates. I think you just did give us a little overview on the approval and the processing for the poll watchers at the polls. And my question is, would the board be able to receive a list of all of the requested and approved poll watchers for prior to any given election, and also for the canvassing room at the Bureau?
I'll just make sure I consult with the solicitor first. I believe that's publicly available information that we'd be able to produce.
I do have a concern.
Okay, go ahead.
With the poll watcher certificates and the canvassing people, and it just like hit me. What if they don't get it in time? Do we want to do a case-by-case basis on that?
Do you mean, what if they show up and they don't have one? Because
what if they finally found their poll watcher, but or canvasser at that very, the watcher at the very last second?
For the Bureau to go and get their certificate, or their,
for them to get their.
Mike, what is the what do you say to anyone who presents to get a poll watcher certificate? How late do they come in asking for those? Maybe you haven't had this experience yet because you're new here but maybe you already are aware of this, how it works.
And I did not observe how that happened last election. I know what the standard process is. I can say that as long as somebody is available, it's it's a fairly simple, quick administrative process to submit the request to us. We look them up again. We just kind of look them up, verify their voter registration, and then produce the certificate. It's not something where we have to wait for
I just want to make
outside approval or anything.
Craziness.
So they could probably do that the day before or even the day of.
I don't believe there's any restriction on that. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Of course, we encourage candidates to get that information in early, but.
I certainly understand that, because election day at the Bureau is pretty crazy. Certainly if it's a poll watcher is going to be at a poll on election day, they want to get there before election day, but the day before sounds like it would work. Okay. Any other questions, input on poll watcher certificates? And we'll move to the item number 12, special election. Is the Bureau using any temporary workers for the special election? And if so, how many, and do they have sure access?
Sure. So we have, so just to clarify, we do have other county employees who are not Bureau of Election workers who sometimes help us out during the election. Those are employees who typically it's this, similar names and faces that help us out during those peak seasons. So they do get access to the shore system. Right now, we only have one temporary employee that's going to be with us. We are looking at getting additional ones, for the upcoming weeks. We have not decided that they would use the shore system. The original intent is that they would be, primarily helping with clerical work. But I can say that even within the shore system, just, a reminder that, it is a secure controlled access. You have to get a login, that we have to submit information to the state to get that login. That person can only actually access the system from one of the terminals in our department. And then we can also kind of control, we can control what kind of account they get. So if it was to our benefit to have somebody with like a read-only access so that they could help us look up voters on election day, but not actually be allowed to make any changes to the system. Those kind of controls are available. But the short version is currently we do not have any temporary employees that are using that system.
Approximately how many county workers outside of election bureau employees do you have helping you with this special election?
Oh, geez. You know what? Currently, we only have two people that are helping us out. We had a large data entry push over the last couple of weeks, getting all those mail ballot applications entered. And during that time, actually, I apologize, I don't have the exact number, but at our peak, we may have had 6 additional persons actually helping out in the office. The total number being more because they were, some were, they're kind of working different shifts. They would go to their regular job, during the day and then help us out for a few hours. So.
Okay.
Mike, I know I've asked you this before, if possible, because you got us a list of the people, the 24 that were purged out of the system, the shore system. I know they're probably just past workers, but I'd still like to have that list of who had access in the past, just of the ones that were just passed, recently deleted. Also, is there a way that we can continuously have that rotating list? So someone's added and what type of access they have. That way we're sure that there is a secure, we feel good about who's in there.
Again, I would just consult with solicitor just to make sure that that's all publicly available information. I believe that it would be, and as long as it is, I can provide that.
Great, thank you.
And when you send that, Mike, if you could send that to all the board members, please. At any time that's sent.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, input, board members? Okay, we'll move on to the agenda items for the Board of Elections.
Oh, and
Registration
make
I'm
one.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just one comment. I just encourage you. I know that there is an agenda item, and a lot of public comment regarding the mail ballots and ballot drop boxes. There are some active disinformation campaigns, and I do encourage the board to. There's some fantastic available resources that have documented these concerns extensively. The Brennan Center from New York University, the Kennedy School associated with Harvard University, general information through the National Conference of State Legislatures.
This is so partisan because it could go the other way.
Okay, please let Mr. Susik talk, and we have public comment at the end that you could share.
Refrain him for having this political
Okay,
thing.
so excuse me.
So I think
I'm
it's
sorry,
just valuable for the board.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to, what was that? We're going to move into the Board of Elections and Registration agenda items. The first one is a request for a poll change, Freeland Borough. Also, I don't know if Harry and Peter could bring the public back in, because I think that there might be a representative from Freeland Borough and Avoca Borough, possibly as members of the public, who would be giving us some input on these requests for poll changes. May not be, maybe, but I can't see them when they're not on there. Okay, so the first item is request for poll change, Freeland Borough. And we received, well, Mr. Susik received a letter. Let me find my poll change here. Okay, here it is. Is it Mr. Crone?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. You are recommending that the former location, which was the Freeland Event Center at 526 Fern Street, that the poll go back to there, which is, and it's also owned by the borough. I'm going on recollect from the email, because I think you mentioned that I think it's an ambulance center is under construction right now, which is the polling site, and it's not able to be used as a polling site.
Right, and I'll try to be brief. My name is Matthew Crone. I'm president of Borough Council in Freeland Borough. Our ambulance actually completed some renovations, and they may have spoken with Mr. Susek or someone else from the Bureau. But basically, square footage wise, it's just not going to work at the ambulance anymore. Up until the primary in May of 2019, the elections were held at the event center. At that time, it was a privately owned building. The borough bought it, completed some renovations, which forced us to move for the 2019 general election. In 2020, with COVID, it was actually the county who pursued having it at MMI Preparatory School, and it was actually shared with Foster Township. So really, what Freeland's asking for is to go back to the way that it was, kind of out of necessity more than anything else with the ambulance work. And moreover, the concern that we have is there's been a little bit of a lack of clarity going back to the former county manager as to whether or not the handicap accessibility is up to snuff, let's say. So that would be the only caveat to this whole thing. But yes, ultimately Freeland does eventually want to have elections as soon as possible in the event center, which is the municipal building, and served perfectly fine up until 2018-19.
Okay, so so you're saying you're not sure if the Freeland Event Center has handicap accessibility?
Mr. Susek shared with me that the last time it was evaluated was in 2017. At that time, there were some recommendations. I don't think there were violations per se. So I think it would probably be in everybody's best interest to send somebody down to take a look at it and just verify, and hopefully everything goes fine with that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to vote on this then tonight, because we'd have to refer this to Mr. Susik to then do that.
Ms. Williams,
Go
I just
ahead.
want to clarify too, I'm sorry, but Freeland is not in the special election, just so that right? That's correct. So that we're not talking about changing a polling location within a couple weeks of the election.
Right, right. This is would be for the primary? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Red.
Yeah. Okay, so how about, I'll refer it back to Mr. Susik, Mr. Crone, to do the evaluation, and then, I mean, our next meeting is, regular scheduled meeting is, I believe it's April 27th. That's still plenty of time, I think. Mr. Susik, if you have any concerns about that, I maybe, we could do it at an earlier meeting or time.
When's the next meeting?
End of April.
The 27th.
Would that be enough time for you, Mr. Susik? And we can
Well,
always.
you'd be in within 20 days right before the election. They're gonna have to, if it's acceptable, they're gonna have to put notice on that old polling place. that it's going to be changed to another place. So you probably want to not have it that close. Because that would only be May 17th is the election. And if you're saying the next meeting is April 27th, that's only 20 days.
Well, how about if we make a motion then, that maybe we could do something where, and maybe tell me if this is okay, Ms. Raddick. If we make a motion where as long as the Freeland Event Center is deemed okay.
Appropriate, yeah.
If it's appropriate for accessibility, the board would vote on approving the poll change to there. How's that sound?
That's good because you're going to be voting on the polling locations as in mass anyway. So that just will give him the ability to to check it out and make sure that it's appropriate.
And also move forward because he has to
Right,
get the notifications out, the state
Right.
does or whatever, to tell those voters of their poll change. Okay, so let me do this again. I'm going to make a motion that as long as the Freeland Event Center is found, is approved for accessibility by the Bureau, that the board a board approves the change, the poll change to that location.
Freeland Event Center.
To the Freeland Event Center
At 526.
at 526 Fern Street. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Castellani, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard, motion passes and unanimously for the approval of the poll change dependent upon approval of accessibility to for the Freeland to the Freeland Event Center on 526 First Street.
Clean it up, and a lot of people are saying we need to clean it up. Follow your conscience. I'd love to be here for the vote. Hope you follow your conscience, okay? As our president said, we have to persevere, we have to make sacrifices. This is a sacrifice. We're within the box. Okay, thank you.
Good night.
You did a
Thank
wonderful
you.
job.
All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Crone. The next item, okay. The next item is the request for a poll change for Avoca Borough. And we received information, the Bureau did from the Avoca Borough Secretary, Ms. Kelly O'Brien, emailed with this request. The request is that currently this Queen of Apostles Church in Avoca has two wards, wards 2 and 3 voting there. And the request is to move one of them back to the Avoca Borough building. Is that correct, Mr. Susek?
Sorry, give me one moment. I'm pulling up that information here.
Yeah.
I
I think
believe that everything.
initially it said to move it back to the borough building, but then when in the next email it was, she requested they all just be separated into 3 different locations. So I want to clarify that. And I don't know if Miss O'Brien is on. I don't hear her. Okay.
No, I did inform her of the meeting, but I don't think she was going to be available to participate. And yes, just going through the email exchanges, it seems that it was the intent to go back to having 3 having 3 polling locations in Avoca.
So her concern seemed to me to be mostly about, it was about that the electioneers didn't know if they were speaking to Ward 2 or Ward 3 voters when they were going in to be able to determine who they should electioneer. And that, but it was also that her concern was that the voters also didn't know if they were voting, who they were voting for in Ward 2 or 3. So those are 2 separate things. My issue with this one is, first off, I had some questions, is when the Ward 2 and 3 voters go into the Queen of Apostles Church, are they all going in the same door? Are they all going to the same poll station? Or are they going in separate doors to separate tables, just in separate poll workers?
Each ward would have their own poll workers. They might go into the one door, but.
Okay, now
you
I
know,
understand.
But, you know, the one ward might be here and the other one might be across the room, but they're separate that way, yeah.
So do you know if there are separate doors or if they go in the same outside door, Mike?
I am not familiar with that. You know, that's specific with that location. I'm happy to follow up with Miss O'Brien.
Yeah, her first thought was to move it back to the Borough building, but there's already a Ward 1 there. So there'd be 2 wards there. So wouldn't they have the same problem? That didn't sound to me like it would solve the problem. And I did share that in a response. And so maybe then her response back was to have them all separated. This seems to a lot of work, a lot of possible confusion to those who vote there to have to change to another location. They've been voting there for 4 years, 8 elections. Has any voter there complained to you about voting there? Or to the Bureau?
You know, there's nothing that I'm aware of, but I'm not sure if, you know, prior to my arrival here, if there was.
This is one
you know, I'm not-
person. Yeah, this is one person saying, well, when people go in, the electioneers don't know who's in Ward 1, 2, or 3 to tell them who to vote for. Because they're maybe going in the same door, I don't know. And actually the voters there are confused as to who to vote for. Now, that to me is, I think a lot of voters sometimes are confused as to who to vote for. That's not unusual. I've heard people say they don't even know who's on the ballot. That's a voter problem. That's not a change of poll problem.
Well, if they got on the wrong line to get to the poll book, they're gonna find out at the poll book that, oh no, you gotta go over the other side of the building here or over the other side of the room. I mean, I don't know that that's,
Yeah,
I mean, it might slow things down, but I think you'd get that almost any place where we do have more than one ward.
Well, there are 7 in the
After
special
you vote-
election alone.
After you vote for so many times.
You get to
You
know.
know, okay, Ward 1, no, okay, so over here, Ward 2. I mean, you know which one you're in, I think, you know, other than the changing districts, which is
Because
kind of.
that's how they have it over at the Armory.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
2 wards in the one place. You only go in one door.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Up where I live, it's
Yeah.
2 in one place.
Do you vote there?
Yeah.
And you know where to go?
Like
Or do they
me.
direct you?
Well, I know I go on this side.
Okay, all right. So you've been
The
going
first
there
time I
for
took
quite
a
a few
good
years.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when
So,
you get up there, they see if you're in the poll book. If not, you go to the other side. And I seen them just send it.
yeah,
If it's meaning that they have the people out in front wanting you to pick something, I mean, I find it annoying, but you know, to go by.
Yeah.
But once you get in, it doesn't seem like it's an effort to me, even if there was 3 of them. Because you could just go wherever you needed to go to.
I think it's a drastic measure to do something silly like this before, or
It's
just
close to
before
it.
an election, you know, I think we read on this, if there's more complaints on it, or it needs to be, you know, we can even table it, but I don't know, I think making a decision on this.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part. What do you think?
It's
The
for-
issue with when people get to their polling place.
they want to change the poll because it appears to me that from what the person has emailed, the secretary of that borough, is that some of the electioneers don't know who to tell who to vote for when they're in the line, because there are 2 lines going into one door. To me, there are 7 polls that are combined for the special election alone. I'm sure there are a lot of polls out of the 180 polls for the whole county that have combined places, like you just mentioned, Kingston at the Armory. So if we start saying to people who want to write in and request a whole bunch of voters change their poll, have to go vote someplace else because we don't know who to tell, who to vote for. You know, we don't know who to electioneer. I don't know that this, to me, I don't think this is a good reason to confuse and disrupt where voters have been going for 4 years.
Not to mention, you're talking about a possible cost of changing polling locations. You're talking about additional signage, additional poll workers.
Finding a place.
Finding a place. That possibilities of all kinds of possibilities could pop up that would be another challenge. I don't see it unless it's a very tiny, small place that needs to be separated out. I think it's a waste of.
And that has not been, that's not the complaint at all. There's nothing like that. My only thought on changing a poll, it goes back to is the reason enough to warrant the disruption and the confusion? I've heard people say, why am I poll changing? And it gets them all rattled, and then they have to, it rattles a lot of people when their poll is changed. And so I would suggest not doing it unless it's really a necessity. Now, the last poll that we just changed, they have a problem. Maybe it's construction. It's a necessity there. So that's a little bit different. So anyways, don't know, Miss Raddick, if we have to make do we vote on declining that poll change?
You didn't make there was no motion made about it. It was just for discussion. So you wouldn't, there's nothing you have to do about it if you're not going to move forward on it.
Unless any other of the board members would like to move forward on that? Make any motions? Okay. We'll move to the item number 3, which is Board of Elections and Registration Vice Chair. We don't have a vice chair at this time. Mr. Nardone was our vice chair prior to the change of board members. So I have nominations and vote by board. So I'm going to open up the nominations.
I nominate Mr. Castellani.
Gee, thanks.
I nominate Mr. Castellani.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. So we'll do a roll call vote for this one. Ms. Cerniak?
Yes.
Mr. Castellani?
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro?
Yes.
She better after she nominated.
I nominated him.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
And Ms. Williams? Yes. So the vote passes unanimously, 5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Castellani. You're the new vice chair of the Luzerne County Board of Elections. Okay.
He's not very excited.
Okay. All righty. Well, I had this big spiel because I was going to nominate him too. I was going to say all these nice things about him, but now I can't say all those nice things.
I'm glad you did. You do it then.
There you go. So we'll skip all that and save a little time. The next item, number 4, is the proposed Pittston City Charter Amendment, 2022 primary ballot question, discussion and board vote, and that's pages 13 and 14 of the agenda. There are 4 amendment questions and explanations to those questions. So everybody should have that in their package.
Just so you know, Ms. Williams, I did contact Pittston. They were not available this evening to attend. So if there are any questions, they would be happy to answer them. You would just have to table it till the next meeting.
Okay.
When is their election?
This is for the primary. This is for the primary ballot.
Okay.
So they have the 4 amendments, the 4 questions with the 4 explanations after their questions.
I didn't have any questions.
Anybody have any board members have any questions or concerns about any of those 4? I'm going to make a motion to approve the 4 proposed Pittston City Charter Amendment questions for the 2022 primary ballot.
I second.
Mr. Schramm. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion passes unanimously. The Pittston City Charter Amendment 2022 primary ballot questions, the proposed ones, are approved. Number 5, the letter and survey to polling places regarding political signs at
Excuse me.
sites. Oh,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You need to cover the plain English as well. part of that? The language for Pittston?
Okay, so do that as a separate motion?
Well, you
Or
did,
do I
you
include
didn't,
it in the
well,
whole-
you didn't
whole
say
motion?
it, so you didn't say it in your, I don't believe you said it, so I
Okay.
guess you could just do it
Okay.
as a separate.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed Pittston City Charter Amendment 2022 primary ballot question explanations. Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Schramm, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion passes. Approval of the proposed Pittston City Charter Amendment 2022 primary ballot question explanations. Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Castellani with the letter and survey to the polling places regarding political signs at polling sites, which is pages 15 and 16 in the agenda packet.
Okay, well, you've read the letter, and I think everybody's approved at this point. I plan on this going out next week. I'll get with Michael now, and we'll make sure this goes out to the polling places. And I think you and I just have to set a date. I have all the phone numbers for all the party chairs to contact them, so I'll give them a call now and arrange hopefully something next week that
Okay.
you and I can meet with them.
Sure, let me know. Very good.
I just have one question. Attorney Raddick, do you need to be on that call with us, or is it just okay for? Ms.
I
Williams and
can
myself?
be, I can be if you want me to be, but I don't have to be, because you're not, you're just relaying information to them regarding the signage issues and asking for their assistance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then I don't need to be. If you want me to be, I can be, but it's up to you.
I just wanted to make sure that if you had to be, that I included you in on it. Thank you.
You can let me know if you want me there.
All right.
Any other questions, input, other board members on that before we move to the next agenda item? Okay, poll worker qualifications, elected official and government employee eligibility, review of current poll workers, addition to poll worker interest form, information discussion, possible vote. See attached page 17 of the agenda packet. I put this together. It's the Pennsylvania statute title 25 2672. It's on elections and electoral districts. I didn't put this together. I just copied and pasted in there. It's from the election code. Qualifications of election officers. And the part in there that I specifically am referring to is no person shall be qualified to serve as an election officer who shall hold or shall within 2 months have held any office, appointment, or employment in or under the government of the United States or of this state or of any city or county or poor district of any municipal board, commission, or trust in any city, save only district justices, notaries, public, and persons in the militia service of the state. Also, I referenced the Pennsylvania Department of State website link to where it talks about poll worker eligibility, and the one paragraph, the first line states, additionally, government officials and government employees are not allowed to serve as poll workers. I'm asking for a review of the poll workers because I have concerns that there are some poll workers in reviewing the list myself that are maybe elected officials and or government officials, government employees, and should be disqualified from being a poll worker. Maybe it was missed, maybe it's missed, maybe they aren't in review. Maybe we'd find out that they actually aren't. I could be mistaken. That wouldn't be the first time that's ever happened. So I think also going forward that I think that steps need to be taken to be sure to kind of check to make that it doesn't happen and be preventative towards this. I noticed that the Department of State has on their form, and I don't know if they've recently added this or not, it may be new. They have a checkbox where you check I am not a government official or employee. But then it has in parentheses, you may check the box if you are a district judge, notary public, or member of the Pennsylvania National Guard. So they're excluded. They can still be poll workers. So I'm suggesting a review of the current poll worker list to discern, and the Bureau would need to do that. I certainly have made our solicitor aware of who I have concerns with and would like them checked into their eligibility. So to have a review, to add that note to our poll worker interest forum online, where someone would sign up to be a poll worker, that checkbox like the Department of State has, to make the administrative assistants aware, because they're often trying to find people to become poll workers and ask people. They might know people and say, hey, why don't you be a poll worker? So that they're aware of this law. To make poll workers aware of this, maybe it could be mentioned at trainings too. By the way, you know that elected officials, and if you're a government employee, you're not allowed to be a poll worker. It may be kind of late in the game, but it would still be a way to prevent someone who isn't qualified from being a poll worker when they shouldn't be. Also to put information on the website. So these are just some thoughts on preventing it from happening and getting ahead of it happening. Could it happen by accident and somebody slipped through the cracks? I'm sure this has happened in other counties, but maybe we need to could do a better job and make a little bit more of an effort of preventing it. But also I would like a review of those who are currently, so that they're informed that they cannot be a poll worker if they've been a poll worker and they are an elected official or a government employee. So
Can I make my first motion then? Can I make my first motion then?
You want to make a motion? Okay, all right. But well, before you do, does anybody want to give any input, discussion on that, or maybe you have questions, maybe you disagree with me, certainly,
No, if they're not allowed, there should be screening.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong on that, I'm going to refer that to Ms. Raddick. If I'm wrong in what I shared on the agenda regarding the law.
No, government employees should not be poll workers or election officials. However, I'm not sure like what happened in the past. I know that there are jurisdictions that some allow school directors to be, but here I don't know if it was allowed in the past. But no, it shouldn't be. Government workers should not be allowed to serve. The only issue would be if they're elected versus appointed. So if they're elected, you're going to have to ask them to step down, or you would have to take it to the court. Whereas if they're just appointed, then you don't have to appoint them if they're not eligible.
Okay,
But
so you're
you need to
saying if
check
they're
out first to see
Yeah.
what, if there is anyone that actually falls into that category.
Gotcha. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to review the names of all of the current poll workers and the poll worker list to ensure that none are government officials and or government employees.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion passes unanimously. What she said. You want to read that?
I'd also like to make a motion to add a checkbox to the poll worker
We
application.
hold on this until we kind of, until I get my
okay.
notes on here now.
Okay.
What I have
Motion.
is, motion
To
to
review
review names of all poll workers and hold the poll workers list to ensure no elected officials or government employees are poll workers.
Mhm.
Okay, you seconded it, right, Pat?
Yes.
Okay, and that was unanimous.
It was unanimous. And
Okay, all right, so.
and I'd like to make a motion to add a checkbox to the poll worker application stating, are you a government official or government employee?
But the Department of State has, I am not a government official or employee.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe
that would make
be
sense.
better to, and
Yeah,
you check
I
the
am
box,
not.
say, I am not a
I am
government
not,
employee.
yeah.
I am not a government official or employee.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? Motion passes. We'll add a check in her, what she said.
Okay.
A
Move
check
to add a
box.
checkbox to poll worker application stating you are not a government official or employee.
Okay, we're moving along pretty quickly.
Okay.
Item number 7, primary election ballot drop boxes and locations, information, discussion, and votes. Open it up to discussion, input, comments by board members.
Well, I would like to, I know you guys know I'm gonna make a big thing about this, so first I'd like to thank everyone that has made any comments, emails, everything for and against the drop boxes. It's been a hot topic for many. Okay, it has been for since they've been implemented. It's kind of been a big issue. The entire reason for my wanting to be here on the Luzerne County Board of Elections is to ensure election integrity, and in that vein, ensure that every legal vote counts. And I have had many concerns when it comes to the drop boxes. Though the drop boxes have video surveillance, and I'm assuming that they all do, correct? Yeah. I know they're not continuously monitored. The other issue is we are not in control of those videos. Okay, as we said, it depends on where they are, where the drop boxes are, as to who's in control of that video. You know, we would have to have some real challenges in order to get that video. And I know that it may seem nobody wants to talk about the ballot harvesting, but the ballot harvesting has happened. It happened in New Jersey. They were just convicted, okay, in Patterson, New Jersey. That was a big ballot issue, a ballot harvesting issue. In fact, I have here, there was a video recently released from November 2nd, 2021 at the Upper Dublin Library in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, through a right to know request, in which a woman is forced to separate her many ballots, which caused her to sit there and pull all the papers apart, or not papers, the envelopes apart, that she could fit all of the many in there at once. And the videos, if you're interested, is on my Facebook. But at the meeting this past Thursday on March 17th, during a Montgomery County Commissioners meeting, Chair of the Montgomery County Republican Committee, Liz Havey, stated that this same video of that drop box shows over 100 people dropping off multiple ballots at a time in just a few hours. Okay. Currently, our own DA obviously is investigating a possible case in Luzerne County. And we heard from our eyewitness earlier when I read her statement. It opens up our election process to a lot of questions, a lot of scrutiny, a lot of, challenges. Okay. We have case after case after case of watching people, video of watching people do this. That's our challenge, is seeing it happen and not being able to do anything about it. Now, the other part is, nowhere in the law does the law mention drop boxes. I feel that we can't add drop boxes, without clear directives from our legislature. Yes, we have some case stuff that happened, but we still don't have directive from our legislature. And we don't make the rules. The law is very specific in saying mail-in or absentee ballots must either be mailed after being sealed or dropped off at the election, or dropped off at the election board. This is what the law says. The law says the election board, which is the 5 of us currently, right? So how does that work? Does they wait until we're in session and then they can all drop off their ballots?
They hunt us down the street.
I'm just telling you, this is what the law states, though, is it says after doing all of the pre-checks and marking your ballot the correct way, you have to drop it off at the Board of Election or put it in the mail. This is the only mention of the procedure of handling mail-in or absentee ballots in the law. Number 3, though it's a smaller concern, there have been a lot of ballot box fires. Okay, this brings into the question of the safety of the votes of many, not just one person. Okay, we're talking about the entire ballot box. Okay, that's it. If this occurs, or we have any other type of incidents, this could ruin the integrity of all the ballots within the box. There have been ballot box fires in Boston, California, and other places around the US. Number 4, finally, it's impossible for the drop boxes to be fair and equitable to all when the availability of them is haphazard at best. Free parking is available for some locations where it's not for others. Availability times and days from location to location offering no consistency, and there are no drop boxes available in some counties and disallowed in, there are drop boxes in counties and then disallowed in other counties. So for example, you have Schuylkill, Pike, Susquehanna, and probably about 30 other counties that do not include drop boxes, that do not use them for various reasons, but they don't have them, they don't use them. I understand that we in Luzerne County have a different form of government. However, when it comes to our elections, we are governed by the state of Pennsylvania. It's not up to us to make that law. It's up to our legislative branch. It's not up to us to interpret the law. It's up to our judicial branch. And one person had mentioned in her email that I had political motivation behind my reason for not wanting Dropbox. You, ma'am, could not be more correct. You should too. Whoever you are, you should too. We all should have political motivation for making sure that our votes count. Okay, that each and every person's vote counts. We should make sure that there is motivation for free and fair elections. That the funny thing is, you know, I've heard a lot about this not being fair to the people. And I just want to point this out real quick. You go out to vote and you drop your ballot in the ballot box. Your neighbor comes up behind you and drops 3 in the ballot box. You were honest, you only dropped 1 in. And you are the only 2 people. Let's just say you're the only 2 people that voted during an election. Do you honestly believe your vote counted at that moment? It didn't, because the other person voted the opposition and they voted 3 times. So that's, when we say free and fair, I mean that it's not when there is a chance that someone else gets to vote however many times they want to, whether it be fraudulent, not fraudulent, that's not fair. That is not fair to the person. And when we get all these things straightened out, yes, fine, sure. But we don't have them straightened out right now. This is a challenge. This is a problem. We have a current case right here. That's a problem. You guys don't see that as a problem? That's a major problem. We have a current case. We have cases all over the place. We have, I can pull them up right now and show you video from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, showing a person dropping multiple ballots into the thing. Okay, whether or not they are family members, it doesn't matter. It's illegal. It is illegal. And that is our challenge. And so until we get these things figured out, you know what? Maybe the solution is like Mr. Griffith said. Maybe the solution is for our county to purchase Ring doorbells, and each of us log into a Ring doorbell. That ballot box is our responsibility, and we know that box. But who's going to do it when it comes to the entire county? Oh, it's going off at 2 a.m. Who the heck is dropping off a ballot at 2 a.m.? All right, you know, it's funny, but it's the truth. We know at least we know the security is there. Right now, we have no security in knowing. I can't go right now and decide to pull Hazleton City Hall's video for their drop boxes. That's not possible. It takes a while for that to happen. That's not something that I can just view and know, and nobody else here can do that either. And that's not fair to the public. That is not fair when someone else is dropping off a ton of ballots, and it opens it up for fraud. You see, everybody just says, this opens it up for fraud. This opens it up for fraud. This, we need to decertify this. We need to do. No, that's not the case. The case is we have to have trust in our elections, in our election process. And this is not, there's no faith here. Not to mention, the law does not allow for it. I don't care what case law you have here. This is, the drop boxes are not safe and secure.
Well, it's my understanding that the drop boxes were approved back in 2020 because of COVID.
No, it's
It was
not.
a way
No.
to make sure everybody had a chance to vote
Correct.
because of health.
Right, we had that, right? We had
No,
that.
it-
That was actually in
we don't have
Pennsylvania from
that.
Governor Wolf, right?
No, it's not the case at all. That is a misconception, and that's absolutely not true. The, and I can tell you right now, Act 77 was passed October 31st, 2019. And it was signed into law by Governor Wolf. It was a compromise bill. It was well before COVID came out. We didn't hear about that until about January 2020. October 31st, it was passed. It was a compromise bill between Governor Wolf, and the compromise was the Republican majority in Harrisburg wanted to eliminate straight ticket voting. And Governor Wolf wanted mail-in ballots. Okay, so they compromised, and the Republican majority wanted to get rid of straight ticket balloting that much that they agreed to mail-in voting. Not only did they agree, every single Republican voted for it in Harrisburg except for one House representative. Many Democratic representatives did not vote for Act 77. So it passed overwhelmingly. The Senate passed it 35-14. All Republicans voted, 27 of them in favor. The only dissenting votes came from Democrats. In the House, the Republicans voted 105-2. Democrats were more divided, 59 against Act 77. The court interprets the law as it is written. Clarity to Act 77 is the role of the state legislators, and our role is to follow that law and case laws related to that law. And so the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on March 1st, 2022 ruled that Act 77 will remain in effect as it considers the challenge by mail-in voting law. And so we're involved with that. But I want to get back to, I've had people say to me, and some of these emails shared that wrote in about concerns about mail-in voting, that now that COVID's over, we need to go back to voting at the polls. As if they thought that's why mail-in balloting came into place, but it wasn't. It was well in advance, but what happened was the COVID came and everybody wanted to vote mail-in voting. And bureaus were overwhelmed with the enormous number of people who wanted to do it because they didn't want to go to the polls because of COVID. Now it's come down. This past year, not as many people vote mail-in ballot. A lot of people returned to go in person to the polls once COVID numbers started going down and they felt more comfortable going back. But that is a misconception and an untruth when people say
I
that
don't think it was, I don't think it was the mail-in ballot he's talking about.
No, I'm talking
talking
about
about the ballot
what this board
boxes.
elected back in 2020 when they voted to approve the drop boxes.
The drop boxes were part of the emergency order, which is now null and void.
Yes.
That you were on
Yeah, I
when
was on the
2020.
board.
There were a lot of there was a lot of guidance that came down and a lot of the case law came through at that time for the ballot drop boxes for the presidential 2020 election. And that may be the case then for that, the ballot drop boxes, but the whole thing with the truth is, this is what I want to get at, is we as board members, when we share advice on elections and on election procedures, election policies, election law, case law, we need to be very careful about what we say because we are informing, if we're informing citizens, we better be saying what the truth is. And if we don't know for sure, I know myself, if I don't know, I ask a lot of questions. I go to our board solicitor, I go to the bureau leadership. I ask probably more questions than they've ever wanted to hear from me. And I think I annoy them. And I'm sure I do, but that's the way I've always been. I want to get back to the bottom line. What is the answer to this? I want to know the facts. I don't want to just know that it's been done this way and this is how it's done. This is what we do. Or I don't want to hear generalizations from the public saying that's fraudulent. I want to know why. Go tell me why exactly. So, because if I'm in this position, I have a responsibility to tell everyone the truth, no matter what that truth is. And I'm very, very concerned that we would share anything and not do our homework diligently. We cannot go to a drop box at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's the truth, because they're not open. Those sites are closed.
That was just I didn't know.
We
You know,
can't
what
say-
I was saying was with the ring doorbells, if we had them and they rang on our phone at 2 o'clock. Now they're locked. Okay, we know that they're locked at a certain time, but it was a generalization and it was kind of more like meant like a joke. Okay, when it comes to we know that we're not going to have them at 2 o'clock in the morning. However, the multiple ballot drop off is a very valid concern for everyone.
I can put 2 mail-in ballots in my mailbox at home and that my mailman can come and pick them up. I can go to a mailbox up the street. Anybody could. And they are not under security cameras.
That doesn't
And
make
they
it
could be
right.
dropped off.
If
No, I'm
you
just
drop
saying,
off,
this can happen.
if you drop
Are you
off,
concerned about that?
yes, I am concerned about the mail-in drop boxes that are on that we are placing around the county. If we are going to place them around the county, they need to be secure.
They are more secure than all the mailboxes.
I'm sorry, they may be more secure
Yes,
than
they are.
mailboxes. However, I can't see that video upon request. I cannot see, no, come on. And how long will that take? And our DA is still investigating something that happened last November.
And last May.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
that process, that's out of our
Exactly.
control.
So
We
why
don't
not
have
make it
control over
secure from the beginning where we don't have to worry about those things? We get rid of the mail-in drop boxes until they are secure. And we are sure that people are not being disenfranchised by people going and voting twice, 3 times, 4 times, and making up their own thing. Okay, it's not secure. It brings questions to the integrity of our elections. And truthfully, do we even have a plan for this, for the primary? Do we have a full-fledged out plan? Because it is not attached to this agenda. So therefore, truthfully, we cannot vote on it if we don't have the physical plan in the agenda.
Okay, we haven't gotten that far. Other board
Okay,
members
well,
might
then
want to speak on
We
this
may want to
topic.
table it then.
No, we're still having discussion, and I have something that I'd like to share. Prior to our meeting today, the board members received a number of emails from the public related to ballot drop boxes. Many were in favor of them, and many were against their use. And it was pretty close to almost being even.
No, it was 60 against and 33 for.
Okay. Many wrote reasons for their preference and some didn't. I also noted that some shared inaccurate information, specifically about ballot drop boxes being illegal, which they are not. Maybe we as a board need to do a better job at educating the public on that. In September 2020, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled to allow voters to submit their mail-in ballots through ballot drop boxes. This is legal. The legislator creates the laws, the judiciary interprets, you're correct on that, and we as the board have to follow the laws. And this is legal, and the Luzerne County voters have been using ballot drop boxes for the past 3 elections, as Mr. Castellani referred to it, starting in November 2020. Ever since that ruling took place, Luzerne County has been offering ballot drop boxes. 1/3 of the counties in Pennsylvania offer ballot drop boxes. And I have voted in person and by mail, and I have utilized ballot drop boxes, and I personally prefer utilizing a ballot drop box. I think they provide much better security than mailboxes used for the mail-in ballots. 5,400 Luzerne County voters from all political affiliations preferred using the secured ballot drop boxes at the last election in November. 5,000. I'm speaking, this is not public comment time. 5,400 voters who we as the board serve. Some of the reasons these voters may prefer to use the ballot drop boxes are convenience, lack of trust in the postal process, uncertainty of the Postal Service delivery time, if their ballot will be received by the deadline, to protect their signature on the back of the envelope from exposure. They prefer drop boxes that have 24-hour video surveillance cameras. They're concerned about their ballot getting lost in the mail, fear that their ballot or ballot envelope may be damaged in the postal process. 2 deputy sheriffs retrieve the ballots from the ballot drop boxes following strict chain of custody guidelines that we set up at the last election. All ballot drop boxes have clearly visible signage noting that a person by law can only drop off their own ballot unless they have a signed affidavit to turn in someone else's ballot. Dropping off more than one ballot without an affidavit is illegal in Pennsylvania. Act 77 of 2019 permitted voters to apply for a mail-in ballot up to 7 days before an election. This creates a real timing challenge, as I shared earlier. So ballot drop boxes come in they're very crucial during that time when someone might apply at a very late note. Voting in person also, it may be the best option for a voter to make sure their vote counts is to put it in the ballot drop box or surrender their ballot, like I said. Voting in person might not be an option for a person, though, who's elderly or disabled, out of town. 25,000 voters from Luzerne County requested mail-in ballots for the 2021 general election. 18,227 of them actually returned them. 43,583 voters preferred to vote at the poll. Almost 1/3 of the voters who turned out voted mail-in. Mail-in voting is popular among our Luzerne County voters. I respect those who choose to vote in person, and I respect those whose choice is to vote by mail-in. They are both completely legal in the state of Pennsylvania. Because someone might not like that is no reason to disrespect their rights. Again, 5,400, that is a lot of voters of all party affiliations who used those drop boxes at our last election. Voting by mail is safe, secure, and may empower more voters to cast votes annually. And I think that's a good thing. The more people who vote, the better. As member of the Board of Elections, we must follow the election laws. Act 77 is the law that legislated no excuse mail-in ballots. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that voters may use ballot drop boxes. The board voted to make the drop boxes available for voters for the past 3 elections. I think we have a responsibility to continue to protect the rights of the Luzerne County voters who prefer to vote in person and those who prefer to vote by mail-in. Again, 5,400 preferred that. I am in favor of ballot drop boxes for these reasons. It's legal. The counties have the option to provide them. Many counties and the counties can choose to do it. They're not disallowed, as Ms. Fusaro said. They're not disallowed. Those counties have just chosen not to do it. We have chosen to do it among 1/3 of the counties in Pennsylvania who have. And many of our voters prefer them, and we represent them and we serve them. And we've been doing it for the last 3 elections. Why would we stop now?
The people of those counties are disallowed, correct?
No, they're not. The commissioners didn't choose.
The people in that county.
They don't have that option.
Cannot, correct, they don't have that option because they know it's ripe for fraud.
No, I don't know that's why they chose that.
If there is a video camera, pointed at a drop box, the only way we would know that any type of ballot harvesting happened is if someone was caught in the act of doing it. And then, and only then, made a complaint. That is the only way that you would be able to physically monitor that drop box. Is that correct?
No one has been charged criminally.
It doesn't matter. That wasn't my question. My question is, you are not physically monitoring that drop box. If you don't actually catch someone harvesting at that moment and dropping more ballots in, and someone complains about it, there is no way that that person will ever get caught. Therefore, that is not a safe way and correct way of voting for the people of Luzerne County. So until you can prove that these are actually secured boxes, that no one is cheating, that no one's dropping in more ballots than, look, here, I have a video right here of a woman dropping 20+ ballots into a box. Okay, a legal drop box here in Pennsylvania, okay, in Montgomery County. Here she is conducting doing an actual ballot harvest and putting, look, she can't even fit them in, so she has to separate them and put them in now. See, you're doing more than one. That's definitely more than one.
Here's a big question. Where did she get the ballots from?
Who knows? Who knows?
She
She could work at a nursing home and be dropping all of the nursing home residents once off, but you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that.
Right.
That's illegal.
And there was no difference if they had those and she put a stamp on them and dropped in a mailbox.
Correct, but that's
No
different.
difference.
That is a different story. Now you're talking mail-in, you're not talking ballot box.
There is no difference between the mailbox and a drop box.
It doesn't matter. That is against the law to drop someone
Either way.
else's.
There is a sign on all the ballot
Either
drop
way.
boxes stating that. It's very clear. It's right
Oh my
on the front.
goodness, everyone's gonna, yes.
Yeah.
There is a store by my house that says smile, you're on camera. And I smile every time I see it because it's not gonna stop me from stealing a candy bar if I was a criminal. Sorry, it's not.
Well, if you're choosing to perform a criminal act, you're taking a chance that you're going to get charged with a crime if you get caught. And
Luzerne County.
I know, it doesn't matter. I do have a question.
You are always
for
gonna get
Mr.
a no vote for me.
Done, then
Okay,
you get charged.
it's not public comment time. Mr. Susik, I have a question about, I had asked you if you had heard anything from Misericordia about their availability. They, at the last election, they had offered to, we as a board had discerned at the last election that we would like for the Dropbox locations to be the northern part of the county, the southern, the eastern, the western, and the central with the Bureau. And the only one that we weren't able to get was the Back Mountain. We did try and we did get it, but it was too late. It was like 5 days before the election. And the woman there said that we told her that it was kind of late, and she said next time. Did you hear from Misericordia?
Hi, I emailed our contact there Friday and again earlier this week. I will follow up with a phone call because I have not heard back yet.
Okay. Any other discussion from any of the other board members on the before the primary election ballot drop boxes and locations?
Just that, regarding the COVID issue, we've been voting pretty consistently for the last elections to have the drop boxes. It's nothing new. We've also been improving our systems, our chain of commands, our security. The first drop boxes we used were really not that large and they weren't that secure. We've gone through we had the Bureau researching different boxes. Nobody has ever suggested we have like a drop box off on the street where you can just mail, go up and from your car, just drop it in. These are all in enclosed locations. They're public locations. So they're not like, there are people around. They're constructed, so you really have to just put one in at a time. You can't throw a whole bunch in at a time. Somebody mentioned drop boxes out at everybody's house. Well, you do have a drop box in your house. I don't recommend this, but you could put your mail, your ballot in your mailbox, and the post office will pick it up and take it and mail it out. That's a lot less secure. Like I said, I really suggest you don't do that. Where anybody could pick it up, or steal it. We have, again, procedures. We have secure boxes. They're inside.
I have a Ring doorbell, so it's actually more secure for me to drop it off at my house.
Well,
in my mail.
Not everybody has that, but
You're privileged.
yeah. Well,
It's not.
that thing is even a Ring doorbell. I mean, you're going to be able to get to it fast enough to catch them, but it's just the idea. We have been securing these more and more and more, and they've been getting more. Any problems that have occurred, I have great faith in the DA's office to investigate these things. It takes time. Yes, it does. They do a thorough investigation. They are equipped to determine criminal intent. I'm not. That's really all we can do. We can't prevent anybody from trying something. We really can't.
It's our role as a board, if anything comes before us, to then make the determination on, by viewing video, if an allegation comes before the board, the video has to be viewed. We have to get the video from the source of wherever the video is from. And then we have to inform the DA's office of our concerns, and then if they would then start an investigation. That's the process of no one can just go in and say, I want to look at that video that you have, anybody from the public. You can't do that, and there's good reasons for that. I mean, it's just not something, you can't go into a municipal building and say, I want to see the video of that as a citizen. There's protocol, that's proprietary and information.
And you just made my whole entire point. You're talking about a secondhand video that needs to be requested. It's not even monitored by us. The Board of Elections, it's not even a video that is monitored by us here.
This is surveillance for 24 hours.
We are talking secondhand, depending on the municipality. We are talking 62 people that have sent in emails that oppose, 33 people who have sent in emails that they approve of them. The people don't want them. Okay.
When feasible, this is the Department of State guidance that we received from our solicitor. When feasible, ballot return sites should be monitored by a video security surveillance system or an internal camera that can capture digital images and or video. A video security surveillance system can include existing systems on the county, city, municipal, or private buildings. Video surveillance should be retained by the county election office through 60 days following the deadline. But I'm going back, it's saying it can be on private buildings. This is the Department of State guidance that is allowed. So you're saying that, you know, it's in somebody else's hands. It's allowed, it's in the guidance. We received it
I
from
know
our
it's
solicitor.
allowed. It doesn't make it any more safe or
That's an
on the
opinion.
up and up.
That's an opinion.
Because it's to your advantage.
It's an opinion. Is it fact? Is an opinion. Mr. Castellani and Mr. Schramm, you haven't had a chance to.
I already talked.
You talked.
I talked about the difference that, what's the difference of dropping in a bunch in a mailbox publicly or dropping it in a drop-off box? There's no difference. If you're
One is
gonna har- if-
illegal and one is not.
Please listen.
Yes,
Carefully.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
If you're going to harvest ballots out of a nursing home and you're going to fill them all out, what's the difference if you just take them to a drop-off box or you put a stamp on them and put them in a mailbox? There is no difference. You're guilty of harvesting ballots at a nursing home.
Correct.
The mailbox or the drop box has nothing to do with that. The only thing that does is that saves you money from having to put a stamp on the ballot. That's the only thing it does. There is no more security or anything else. Dropbox being set on fire, so are mailboxes. There is no difference between either one of them. The drop boxes are more secure because they're inside of a building. Mailboxes are public. And if you have anybody that wants, you can drop in a Molotov cocktail if you're in Ukraine. But there's no difference between whether they are or not. Harvested ballots will be a valid ballot for whoever stole them. And how you're going to stop the harvesting, I don't know. But getting rid of the drop boxes is not going to solve that problem.
All right, we should get rid of mail-in ballots altogether. You're correct.
But they're allowed. And I think that they should be. What has to happen? What happens when you catch somebody harvesting ballots? What should be done with them? What needs to be done with somebody that's doing things illegally?
Well, we haven't had that happen in Luzerne County that I'm aware of. So I don't know if it's happened in other counties. And so I don't know what they did with anybody that way. These are a lot of like, what ifs.
Are all the counties in PA allow drop boxes?
Yes, any county can choose to
I
vote.
said, do they all allow?
No, they don't all have.
They don't all have, but they are allowed if they want
Yes,
to
they are
choose.
allowed,
There's about
but they
30
don't have to
counties
have, them. It's not a requirement.
That's what the board's role is. Here in Luzerne County, we have a board of elections. The board of elections role is to do that vote. In some counties, like Lackawanna County, they have 3 commissioners. They don't have a board of elections like is set up in Luzerne County. So they make that vote. They make that determination. So it's either the commissioners make the vote to determine, or if you have a board of elections, we in Luzerne County determine, are the determining entity for ballot drop boxes. With that said, I'm going to make a motion to approve ballot drop box sites for the May 2022 primary election at the current sites that we're utilizing, which are Wright Township Fire Hall, Pittston Library.
You can't make a motion like that without giving me a list of all of the places.
I'm reading them.
Okay. Do you have a written list for all of us?
I'm saying it right now, so if you want to write them down, that's what I'm saying. They're the same ones we've been using.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Me
I'll
and
give you the
Mr.
sticky
Graham
note.
are
I'll
both
give
of
you
us.
this when I'm done.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the Wright Township Fire Department, Pittston Library, the two at the Bureau, the one in the entranceway and the one in the office, the Hazleton Municipal Building, and the Misericordia University, if available.
Can you please read those again? You went a little fast for me.
Wright Township Fire Hall, Pittston Library, Hazleton Municipal Building, Penn Place entranceway and Bureau office, and Misericordia University, if available. So I've made the motion. I made the motion to approve those ballot drop box sites for the May 2022 primary election at those sites, and going forward with only the need to revote for any changes. For
I say,
future
no,
elections.
no. So you're saying for the foreseeable future? No, I don't agree.
Well, we're voting, so,
Yeah,
okay, so we haven't gotten to the vote yet. I'm still
And I see
finalizing the
you-
motion.
you
So
put
the
each
mo,
one
and
up
so
for
it's,
a vote.
can I finish the motion?
Yeah, sure.
So that and how did I say that? And so, and going forward, for future elections, revotes are only necessary for changes to those locations. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Cerniak, and this is going to be a roll call vote. Mr. Castellani,
No.
Ms. Fusaro,
Absolutely not.
Mr. Schramm,
I'm gonna go with yes.
Ms. Cerniak,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, yes. The vote is, motion passes 3-2. The 5 sites that I shared are approved for the May 2022 primary election ballot drop box sites, and going forward, the only need to revote would be for a change in those locations. Moving on to number 8, the special election mail-in ballot notification to cure, discussion and vote. Paul, is there any updated guidance on this?
No, there's been nothing updated. I contacted the state, but there's nothing that's been updated.
Okay, the notification to cure procedure that the board passed on October 24th, 2021 states that prior to any election, the board will vote on whether or not it will notify to cure mail-in ballots with deficiencies at the next election. I believe it's the last page of the agenda. The ballot curing process that was drafted on October 24th, 2021, and the process that the board does for this notice to cure process.
There are currently several lawsuits out right now, including the curing ballots in Allentown. There is numerous lawsuits about curing ballots as to whether or not we should meddle with people's right to vote. So I'm just saying, I don't think that we should be determining who intended what on their ballots.
My position is if we're allowed by law as a board to choose to provide the opportunity to notify mail-in voters of a known deficiency with their mail-in ballot in order for them to fix or cure their ballot by going to the poll before it closes to vote provisionally, why wouldn't we do it?
Can I just clarify something, please? I want to
Sure.
make sure that the public understands you're talking about the envelope of the ballot, that the ballot comes in, not the ballot.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's missing something like a date, a signature, or that kind of thing, you're
Ballot.
not opening the ballot. You're not
Right.
opening the ballot.
Right. So why wouldn't we do it if we could let someone know if we find out at 9 a.m. They don't have a signature on their envelope, that ballot will not be counted. It's within the law that we can let the party representatives know the name of the person. They have to contact them. They have to do that work. We just put the name of the person and what's wrong with the ballot. They can call them and say, hey, there's a deficiency with your ballot.
And
you
up
can
to
go in up till 8 o'clock that night to the
I
poll.
know that's impossible because all votes have to be in by 8 o'clock. Oh, you're saying
up until 8.
They can come
to the poll
until 8.
Yeah, they go
to
the
do
polls and do
vote
it
provisionally.
All right.
And they would say to the poll worker there, my party chairperson called me. They said, there's a problem with my ballot. I'd like to vote provisionally. And they can vote provisionally. And then that all comes back to us at the board. We have to review all this during adjudication. I personally am always in favor of doing everything we can to help every Luzerne County citizen's vote count. And if this is just one small thing we could do while we're there on election day, I'm all for it. Any other input from any of the other board members? I'll make a motion to approve the board notifying to cure the mail-in ballots with deficiencies. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Mr. Castellani seconds the motion. Roll call vote. Ms. Fusaro,
No.
Mr. Schramm,
Yes.
Ms. Cerniak,
Yes.
Mr. Castellani,
Yes.
and Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes 4-0, the 4-1, I'm sorry. The board has approved the notification to cure of the mail-in ballots with deficiencies during pre-canvassing. 9 is the board member special election schedule, pre-canvassing, adjudication of mail-in ballots with deficiencies and provisional ballots and write-in adjudication. I don't have the exact times right now. I did have an email into the Bureau, but what I can say is keep your calendar open April 5th all day if you can. And I will be getting in touch. I'll take care of the schedule. I'll be getting in touch with everyone because we do have a schedule with the notice to cure where we try to always make sure it's done with a bipartisan, Republican, Democrat, always stays in the pre-canvassing room. Somebody goes into the Bureau office to write the lists.
Oh, I'll be attached to your hip, girlfriend.
So there will be a schedule. I'll help make it up by getting with all of you. If there are times during the day you're not able to be there, you could let me know because I'll try to work it so that we have adequate coverage. We try to make sure we always have a quorum. Even though it states, one person only at the Bureau, we've always worked with a quorum. There are at least 3 members of the Bureau, or we try. If we aren't all in a quorum, if something comes up and a decision has to be made by the board, it has to wait until 3 board members can be there. So usually in the past, it started at 8 a.m. on election day and it went through into the night. They can't start canvassing the votes until 8 p.m. And so it's kind of late into the evening. But again, we can set up a schedule that works for everyone. I'll also include with the schedule and getting with everyone, the adjudication of ballots with deficiencies and provisionals is usually, at last election, it was the Friday after election day. It gave the Bureau 2 days to prepare all that for us. The administrative assistants had to get that all together. For the special election, my question is, I don't know if the Bureau needs 2 days to get it all together for just the one office on the ballot. If they only need one day, we might need to be at the Bureau on Thursday. I don't know if that means the write-in adjudication would start on Friday or if it would start on Monday of the week after. So what I'm getting at is starting election day, you might want to, get with me and let me know if there's any days, but from election day into the middle of the next week that, or any times that you cannot be present. And then I'll start working up a schedule and I'll get it to everybody so we all know who needs to be there and when and at what time. Any questions about that? Any input from any of the other board members? We'll move to the comment on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters not listed on the agenda, but which must be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Same thing, we ask you to limit your time to 4 minutes, one item per person. And when you speak, if you go up to the podium, please state your name and municipality. If you speak online, please state your name and municipality as well. So first public comment. Go right ahead.
Thank you. My name is Theodore John Fitzgerald, Wilkes-Barre City. I agree with every one of you that say you don't want to suppress the vote.
Being a smart ass. What?
Oh, right there.
Who said that?
I think somebody might be getting some feedback from somebody. Okay. there
That
we
was
go.
pretty
Go ahead.
nasty.
Yeah, if that was a person that works for the county, I want them censored and I want Miller Crockamo to find out who that was.
I didn't hear it. What was it?
She called me a smart ass. What was it?
I didn't hear it. I didn't know.
I didn't
Are you
hear it.
sure that's what
Oh,
they
we got
said?
it on recording.
It was Rick Nardone. It was kind of garbage.
Yeah, we all heard it.
We all heard it. Maybe it was in a Dropbox somewhere. And yeah, you gotta be smart to be a smart ass. Can I start my 4 minutes now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, I agree. You just said it again.
What the heck? Why would you do that?
Dude, I mean, what?
I didn't hear.
I heard something. I think I heard.
Who, you said he, who was he?
Rick Nardone.
Who's it?
Rick Nardone is the, never mind.
No, who is he? Who's Rick Nardone?
I don't
The
know.
former
Let's-
member of this.
Yeah. If
office.
Okay.
if maybe, I'm sorry, Peter, if you could just kind of mute everyone until the public in here is done speaking, then we can open up unmute them. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, again, with the suppression of the vote, for every legal vote that's there, every vote that person goes in person and votes, we know that's legal. We don't know all the Dropbox letters that are legal. And we have stuff in the ballot. So everyone that is illegally counted, you're actually suppressing the vote of the legal ones. I agree that everyone should be on it, whether you're elderly, disabled, veteran, but we really need to make that secure. But it's just like, people on welfare, not everybody on welfare should get welfare, but they get it. We should make our elections have a lot of integrity and make sure there's no cheating. I think they should have a live stream. So this way the public can see who's dropping them in. As soon as they're going, Joe Public, they'll dime them out in a second. So instead of having it where the election bureau only sees it and you go, oh, it's privacy. No, we go and vote in public. There's no privacy there. And then also, if you really care about the elderly, there's a lot of elderly abuse. And you don't think that people are going to say, hey, mom, hey, grandma, sign the paper, sign the paper. And then you know why also that we used to go to in public and we have the drapes, and now we have the things? Because it's supposed to be private. At home, it can't be private. I agree with you. There's no difference. There's no difference between Dropbox and mailbox. I think we should get rid of them all. I agree with you. But I also agree that there's a lot of fraud there. And you know why we can't have water or whatever drinks so many feet from the elections? Do you guys know that? Because back in the day, you used to go to a bar and you'd say, hey, everybody come on, I'll buy you a drink. And let's go vote for Joe Blow. That could happen at home. That's the truth. That's actually, it is the truth, correct? So you could do that at home. You could say, hey, listen, I'll give you $20 when you vote for this person, $10 for this person. Hey, listen, I won't beat you up if you vote for this person. It's a possibility. But when you go in person, it's not a possibility. There's no way that you could abuse somebody at the polling place. Plus, at the polling place, I can't go, because I work the polls. Vote, 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 like you could do at the Dropbox. So there's way big difference between integrity between the Dropbox, mail-in voting, and live voting. You can be bribed. You can be forced to vote. You can, yeah, right or wrong, it's a possibility. You want to change your vote on the Dropbox? Yeah. But you do, I agree with you that it's the same, but you agree with me that there could happen. And as far as getting to the votes, I think that the people that really can't get there, we have Volunteers of America, we've got a lot of things, but we got to make sure that they really, really, really can't get the vote. Not the ones that just don't feel like it. You know, I do care about every vote being counted, very much so. I don't want anybody's votes. I hope all America votes. I just want them to do it legally, fairly. And you said that it's been the last 3 years, so we should do it. What about the last 100 years when we did it? I mean, there's always a case in point to flip this stuff around. And I think that, you know, I spoke to you and I think you have a lot of integrity and you helped me out a lot and it made a lot of sense. And there's 2 suggestions I would make for voting. Number 1, from now until election, I think on the website, the IT guys should put a thing where it says how to vote and have video, YouTube, for people that really, because our vote. And one more, I'll finish it up. So just to help people vote, you could have the YouTubes. If you go in person, because a lot of people didn't know that you had to get the vote and then take it. But if you had a YouTube video on the steps of how to vote when you get there, or in mail, you should have a YouTube on how to do it correctly. So you don't have votes that you have to go back and check them the second time. Have a YouTube thing on our site. And then the last thing, I'm sorry, but have another button that you click right on the front page of our thing where you click on it and it could show all the voting places. So you could put in what your address is and it'll show you and give you the address for where you should vote. Because the last time I went to vote, I went to the place, it was a place over on, I apologize, I'll go a little longer, but I'm trying to be helpful. On Water Street.
I know you're wrapping it up.
I'm trying to wrap it up. On Water Street, and they didn't even have a sign where to go. It was up at the church on Main. So I think that we could do a little bit better for the public with educating on how to vote and where to vote on the website. Maybe that might be something. Thank you, and I appreciate it. I'm a little.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Anybody else in the room who would like to speak?
Thank you. Joe Novakoski again. I'm from Kingston. I don't recall who it was that said it was out in the virtual audience there, who had alluded to folks like myself who are against drop boxes as being conspiracy theorists or sore losers over an election. But there is a really another big reason why people like me are against drop boxes. I'd like to quote you something from penlive.com. This is dated November 4th, 2021. PA Governor Tom Wolf's wife dropped off his mail ballot, violating state election law. Okay? And that's just one source. So there's multiple sources if you Google it. Okay, so if we can't trust our own governor to follow the law when it comes to drop boxes, we're supposed to give everybody else free pass and say, oh, yes, we know you're going to be good. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to be very quick. Mary Ann Velez from Duryea. First of all, your job is not easy. And I applaud you all for taking the time to seriously consider all sides. of these issues. You utilized facts, you utilized law, you utilized case law to base this decision. That was extremely important. And I thank you all so much for utilizing what we have at our disposal, as opposed to public opinion or propaganda that might be fed through the media, which I don't buy into any of it. But it is important that as members of the election board, you are able to walk that fine line, check your political affiliation at the door, and base your decisions on facts. So again, thank you so much for your votes tonight, and thank you so much for executing those votes with a level and clear head. Have a good night.
Okay, Peter, if you would let the public back where I could see them. I can only see the panelists right now. Is there anybody else in the room here who would like to speak while that's populating?
Hi, my name is Vivian.
Go ahead.
I wanted Lucina, it's Kreidler-Lucina. It's KREIDLER/Lucina, LICINA. About the mail-in. Go ahead.
What municipality?
I'm from Nescopeck Township.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm concerned about the mail-in, the ballot drop boxes. According to section 1306-D of the Act 12, it's a direct violation of election laws for ballot drop boxes. Some people have been arguing here with me in the chat about it. I did put some little information up, but I think that's something you need to look under before saying yes to these drop boxes in these different municipalities. I don't feel drop boxes are very safe. I mean, you guys said it yourself. A drop box isn't safe. The mail-in isn't safe. So guess what? Go to the polls. If people could go out shopping and go out to dinner during the COVID-19 through the pandemic, I don't see a reason why you can't go and vote. Except for, is there an illuminated sign underneath the election voting places that say COVID's here, but it doesn't sit when you go to Walmart? Is there an invisible sign that says no COVID here, or the restaurant, no COVID here, but it's only available that a fear of COVID at the ballot at voting is there? I think this needs to be reviewed a little bit more before you go and put out boxes for people to go and just drop as many ballots as they want in there. You know, I mean, if you're only supposed to drop your ballot, our own governor let his wife take his ballot. He wasn't charged. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Ms. Williams, it's Walter Griffith.
Go ahead, Mr. Griffith.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Peter from IT for his hard work on making sure this webcast works well. Thank you for that. I know it takes some time from his day. I also appreciate the time the board took into listening to this conversation. It's 8:30 at night. You guys have been sitting there for almost 4 hours. It's a long day for everybody. So appreciate your time. The first issue, the curing, just to be clear, and I know we use the words are interchangeable because we all know what the meaning is, but just so people are not misled on the curing, is you're actually curing the outer ballot. And I know Ms. Raddick tried to clarify that, but sometimes we throw the word ballot around indiscriminately and it muddies the water and confuses people. When we cure a ballot, if I'm clear, I think what we do is when the ballot comes in the envelope, we look at the front envelope to make sure that the data is on the envelope that's required to accept that ballot. Inside the envelope, we never see the ballot. If the outer envelope has deficiencies, whether the date's not there or the signature's not there, the name is there, something's missing from the outer ballot, the outer envelope, before we even cut it open or look at it, that voter is notified through the Bureau of Elections to the party representative, and they're told that their envelope was not correct and he could vote by provisional. So I just want to clarify that, because when we throw the word ballot in there, people obviously will get the misconception that we're actually looking at the ballot and saying they voted and we're giving them a chance to re-vote. We're giving them a chance to vote at the polls based on the fact that the outer ballot was not correct. And I hope I explained that correctly. And the other item I wanted to talk about is the issue with the write-in candidates in a special election. I think the board did pass at some point that if you're a write-in candidate, you must declare that. And I do know that there's a write-in candidate actually working in the special election for the April 5th election. So I would certainly hope that somebody would reach out to that candidate, Mr. LaRocca, I believe his name is, and let him know that he must declare so his votes are counted appropriately and not scattered or whatever way the Bureau or board decides to do that. I inadvertently gave a list of the wrong information on the absentee ballots. Miss Audrey was correct on the Act 77 did change that. And the section that states that is 1306B1 that says any elector who receives and votes an absentee ballot pursuant to section 1301 shall not be eligible to vote at a polling place on election day. The district register at each polling place shall clearly identify electors who have received and voted absentee ballots as ineligible to vote at the polling place, and district election officials or officers shall not permit electors who voted an absentee ballot to vote at the polling place. They have to vote they cannot vote by provisional. The only way they can vote by provisional is if they their ballot was not received by the Bureau. They submitted for a ballot and never received it. And therefore the poll book would clearly say they didn't receive one. So that's just to clarify that misunderstanding. And that was my bad on giving the wrong information to Ms. Facero on that. The other item I had, yes.
Just a really quick question.
Sure.
Are you able to, if you go in and you filed an absentee and you went into that polling place, can you take your absentee ballot back?
No, the law clearly states that the absentee ballots are part of the pre-canvassing, as Ms. Williams stated. So absentee ballots and mail-in ballots are part of that. It was changed, and I apologize for that information. Okay.
That's okay.
So and the other information I want to clarify is that the difference, and I know Mr. I'm sorry, I forgot your last name, the newly appointed Democrat on the board.
Mr.
Schramm, Mr. Schramm, thank you so much. He stated that what's the difference if you put in 15 ballots in a mailbox or you put 15 ballots in a drop box? I certainly understand on the surface they're not different. However, the law does not allow that. That's the difference. Whether and the issue becomes are they valid ballots or not? That's another discussion for another day. But clearly the law says you can only put your ballot in a drop box, and that's all we're concerned about. At least that's all I'm concerned about. If you want to put 15 in a mailbox, I guess I can't stop you from doing that. But if you're going to put 15 in a drop box, now you leave yourself open for suspicion of harvesting or whatever the allegations may be. But you're not going to know who put those ballots in there if there's 15 in there. So I understand the concerns on this drop box thing and the mail-in ballots, and it really is a mess. And I appreciate the frank and honest and open discussion we have on drop boxes, because I think it's something that the people need to understand. Act 77 did not provide for drop boxes. Act 77 provided for the mail-in ballots, but not for drop boxes. The drop boxes were created by the Supreme Court ruling. So that's something to deal with also on that. And I think I only have one more issue to say is the poll workers and watcher training is going to be done by the election integrity people. And I think that's helpful for the outside people to do that kind of stuff, so that we actually have somebody who's going to be sitting at the polls, whether they're by the parties or whoever's getting these poll workers and watchers to watch the polls, that they be adequately trained by somebody so that there's no interference and there is no problems with people interfering with the election process. The judge of election doesn't have problems on election day. And so I applaud these outside sources that are going to do training for people. Training is always a good thing, and I appreciate whatever anybody does to try and make it work smoother. So thank you so much. I'm going to just allow the other people to speak, and thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I just want to clarify a couple of things that you brought up. The first one is on the notice to cure. You said that the only thing that the board sends notice to cure on is the outside of the envelope, whether it be the signature or the date. And that actually is incorrect. We don't look at the ballots, but you may remember that we noticed to cure for no signature, no date, no secrecy envelope, which when the election day workers slit, when that's slit, they can see if there's no secrecy envelope in there. They immediately tape it and they put that in a box that says no secrecy envelope. So that's another item that we can notify to cure. There's no secrecy envelope. We don't look in there. We just know it's in the box. It says there's no secrecy envelope. The other thing is sometimes when they take the secrecy envelope out, there may be identifying marks on the outside of that envelope. That is a fourth thing that we notify to cure on. That would go right back into their envelope and into a box saying it has some kind of marks. And they're not always identifying. That's something that we adjudicate. We have to determine as a board at adjudication if those are identifying marks. Are they not? Should that vote count? Should that ballot come out of there and be processed or no? There's a lot more to this than just the signature and the date. Did I miss anything that anybody can think of? I think I got them all now. So that's the notification to cure. What we might put on a list. Party chairs would then contact those people and say, hey, there's a problem. Go to the vote. Go to the poll by 8. You could vote provisionally. The second thing is for the write-in candidates, they need to declare, you mentioned. What we discussed here on the board is the name declaration. When write-in candidates previously would come to the Bureau and say name accumulation, they would give all these different names that would be their name for a write-in, like John Jones, John A. Jones, John Jones Jr., all these different names. They say any one of those is me. And so for write-ins, and the way we voted recently is we changed that process. And anybody that is a write-in candidate, we will only write in the names as they come in, if they're a write-in. And if they want to accumulate names and say, all these names are up there, all different variations of John Jones, and they look like they could be him, but we don't determine that. We just put how they are. We write John A. Jones, John A. Jones Jr., and you'd see them all listed. If that person to accumulate them now would have to go to the court to do that. They have to petition the court. And after the write-in adjudication, they see them all. If that's up to them, if it looks like they could place in that race by accumulating those names, they would want to probably go to the court and say, those are my names. And then the court decides that. In the past, they could present all these names and we would accumulate them during the write-in process, but we voted to change that and we're no longer doing that. We're no longer doing that. Now, as for if a write-in candidate wants to notify the Bureau that they're doing a write-in campaign, I guess they could do that. And I'm not sure if that's helpful. Maybe Mr. Susek could give more input onto, is there a good reason that a write-in candidate would notify the Bureau and why?
I apologize. I was just responding to an email. So that's okay. If I'm hearing correct, it's whether or not a write-in candidate would give us some sort of formal notification.
Should they tell you, is there a good reason? Is there something that in doing that is helpful for them?
I'm contemplating a little bit. I know in previous elections, they could file a like some of the other counties done, and the board has already deliberated on this, the accumulation form. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a direct, reason that we would need that information. I mean, it's helpful for us to know generally, what's going on, just, a voter may call us asking for that information, that sort of thing, just being aware of what's going on with the races. But now that now that we're simply going to report the write-in, results, yeah, I'm not sure, other than it could be helpful if something were to come up with the board, during that process, to reach out, to the candidates.
Okay, just curious.
Sure.
I didn't know either. Okay. Any other public comment?
Yes, this is Claudia Glennon, Salem Township.
Go ahead, Claudia.
I wanted to thank everybody who spoke tonight. Certainly there were ones that I agree with and ones I disagree with, but I think it's important that we hear all voices. I think that there were very good points brought up by many individuals. I would take issue with some things, but I don't think that this is a forum to do that. But for everybody that's interested in free and fair elections and how we might be able to improve those in the future, not only here in Luzerne County, but all of Pennsylvania and the country, I highly, highly recommend a book, the title of which is Vote for Us. Subtitle, How to Take Back Our Elections and Change the Future of Voting. The author is Joshua Douglas. Again, in this book, I didn't agree with everything, but it gives you a better understanding and a background of certain things, not necessarily, not talking the history of voting, but how things can be implemented, how they've been done in other municipalities and in other states, and the success. And I know from reading it that like the state of Washington has used mail-in voting since the early 80s with very, very few incidences or occasions of fraud. Is there going to be fraud? Yeah, nothing's perfect. We're not perfect as humans. And there's never going to be a system that doesn't have some element. I think that what we need to strive for, though, are systems that provide the opportunity for all eligible voters to vote, and in the most fair and just way possible. I also think that our county is maybe not unique within Pennsylvania, but certainly within other areas of the country. And there are many, 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 many people who can't get to the polls. But thank you all for your job. It's not easy, and I appreciate all the hard work and input. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Madam Chair, this is Mark Rabo speaking.
Go ahead, Mr. Rabo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you on the board for your very thorough, frank discussion on the drop boxes. It is not an easy task with the elections in our county. It never was for the past few years, but I applaud you for trying to, move forward and trying to usher in a new era to try to have our county elections and our election integrity as non-controversial as possible, because I think that's what we all want here. We all want that. We all want our Luzerne County residents, regardless of age, background, walk of life, all to be counted. But what I actually, and I've been very clear on this since 2020, when we had out-of-state people who were scared by a now disgraced former governor who chased his population out, and they came to our state seeking refuge because of the pandemic, that they were shacking up with their relatives, and particularly in Hazleton, that they were, staying with their relatives, and it was in the midst of the primary, in May of 2020 and in November of 2020 that the mail-in ballots were utilized, and there was no way to vet if the mail-in ballots were those of residents in Hazleton or those of people that were staying with them because they were seeking refuge. I would like to ask for the board to consider if after the Supreme Court rules that the mail-in ballots do stay, that they would seek guidance from our Department of State as to, and I do believe, Madam Chair, we discussed this when you came on board the election board with regards to the flaw in Act 77 pertaining to what defines a resident in terms of the voter. You know, is it 6 months and 1 day? Is it 1 day? Is it 1 week? 1 month? Nobody knows. So that was the flaw in Act 77. And I think what needs to happen is the board needs to, along with the other counties' boards of elections and election bureaus, need to, once the Supreme Court comes up with their ruling, if the mail-in ballots do stay, it overturns the Commonwealth Court decision, what defines a resident and residence? Because that, I think, will be will deal with like at least 60% of the problem, okay? Because of the fact that that's happening, that's why mail-in ballots, and you know what? Here's another possible solution, Madam Chair and members of the board. I think what should happen is if mail-in ballots, because mail-in ballots are controversial, I think maybe there should be a discussion on absentee ballots for all, because at least absentee ballots for all, absentee ballots, as you know, as all of you know on the board, are tracked by the SURE system of the state. So that means there's no controversy there. So why not go on the path to least resistance is what I'm suggesting. Also, I have 2 questions, Madam Chair, really quick. Number one, as far as the Hazleton polls, wards 1 and 2 that I mentioned to you about the parking, did Mr. Susquehanna talk to the Hazleton mayor or any city officials in Hazleton with regards to suspending the meters so people can vote at the polls without fear of being ticketed and towed? That's my first question. Second question is with regards to wards 5 and 6 with the security of the voting machines post-election. Will they be secure because of the fact that there are trailers stationed around those areas that they would be a problem in terms of, being exposed and possibly, you could put them in one of the trailers. I'm not saying it will happen, but there's a possibility it could happen. So if they could be locked in a secure place within the building structure, and then so that way when the election bureau has an opportunity to take them back to the warehouse, that they would be able to. Those are my 2 questions. I'd appreciate an answer to those. Thank you very, very much, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Susek is on with the meters. I know that did come up at another meeting about checking. Someone was going to check with the mayor if they could bag those meters on that street so that there would be free parking and it would note voter, for voters to park there. Any update on that, Mr. Susek?
No, and I think we may have addressed this earlier in the meeting, but we are we have reached out more than once. We've been unsuccessful at contacting them, but we will continue.
Okay, and as for the ward 5 and 6 that Mr. Rabo brought up, the security of the election machines, you may be more aware of what he's talking about when he references the trailers stationed around there. I'm not familiar, but locking he references it like that it was a concern in the past.
Are these wards 5 and 6 Wilkes-Barre?
Yeah, no, ward 5 and 6 Hazleton.
Sorry.
Terrace Plaza in Hazleton.
Just to be honest, I'm not familiar with that issue. But
The
I would be
voting
happy
machines were
to
left exposed. The voting machines
see what
were
I can
left
learn.
exposed in 2021. They were left exposed out in the open, unsecure. They were in the lobby section of the Terrace Plaza, and they weren't locked in a secure location to where, you know, anybody could just walk in. I mean, you need probably one, or you probably need more than one person to take the voting machine and put it in a trailer, but still, I mean, those trailers are overnight. The tractors are there overnight. So they could possibly store one of them in the trailers and then drive off with it overnight. So that's why I raised this issue last year. So
I do remember that. Yes, I do remember that coming up. So just so now that Mr. Susek, you're aware of that, it was Hazleton Ward 5 and 6, just to maybe touch base on and be aware of that.
Yeah, but I'll send an email out to my team right now just to kind of see if they can kind of brief me a little bit on that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions from the public? Okay. Oh, I see a hand up, but I think it's Vivian, but I think you already spoke. No.
I did have a question, and I'm sorry I didn't. I did have a question, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to ask it because I was misunderstood on what we were allowed to ask. Can you tell me why the gentleman that Mark LaRocca was the one that the committee had picked for the 116 special election? Could you tell me why the board decided to go with someone else instead of him who accumulated all the votes? I mean, it kind of makes me feel like that the people's votes don't count.
I don't know what you're talking about. The parties choose the candidates. The board doesn't choose any candidates, if that's what you're talking about.
Okay, back in January of 2022, there was a commission meeting for the Republicans for who we wanted to go to represent the 116 district in the special election to Harrisburg. Mr. LaRocca received 13 votes, as Mr. Schnee only received 2 votes. When it got up to your office, to the election board, you turned around and said, no, we don't want LaRocca to go. We want the other gentleman to go.
No, I don't believe.
Madam Chair, I can answer that question for her. This is Mark Rabo speaking. I could answer that question. The actual story is the county Republican Party chose Mr. Schnee over Mr. LaRocca over the expressed vote of the 116th committee district. So in all actuality, it was not the election board or the bureau. It was the county GOP chairman, Mr. Prabula. So
okay,
that's the answer to the question.
The board and the bureaus don't choose those state candidates.
Okay, I thank you then. That's all I had to ask.
Okay, I think that's it. I don't see any other hands up. So no. Is there motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn.
I make a motion to
Okay,
adjourn.
Mr. Schramm. Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Lucero, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Meeting's adjourned at 8:59. And our next regular scheduled meeting is Wednesday, April 27th. Thank you, everybody.